So as you arrive, get yourself comfy, get yourself set up, and we'll have lots more from myself and George as we line up for an afternoon of entertainment in the skies and both on the ground here at the Wales Airshow. Ar y sioe awyr Cymru. Croeso.
So as we move nearer and nearer to starting the aerial activity today, just yet another reminder, please, if you're thinking of putting anything into the air, just don't do it. Don't get it out of the box, don't blow it up, don't assemble it, so no drones, no kites, no balloons. It will interfere and it will cause a hiccup, and we'll have to cease flying until we sort out various individual issues with that. It is illegal, by the way, to fly a drone within the vicinity of an airfield or an air display, and many people have actually been prosecuted in the last 2 years for that, so just bear that in mind. But the most important thing is that you have a fun, relaxing day out. Please keep a hold of all your belongings during the course of the day, just to avoid any unnecessary security incidents. If you haven't got a wristband for your children yet, please do so, and perhaps take a photograph of what they're wearing today, just in case you become dislocated with each other during the course of the afternoon. But if you see anything remotely worrying, concerning, or whatever, please speak to any of the friendly stewards or policemen around the site this afternoon. But we're all set. I think we're in for a great summer's afternoon. This is almost a repeat performance of yesterday, if anything, a little bit warmer, I think. With sunshine, I think, pretty much on the table for the rest of the afternoon. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, a massively warm welcome to you here to the Wales Airshow, brought to you by Swansea Council on this absolutely fabulous afternoon. Maybe a little bit fresh, but the sun is shining. That's the important thing. The sky is clear, which is even more important, not just for the aircraft, but also for parachuting, which we're going to be doing very, very shortly indeed. So get yourselves ready, belt up, get those teas and coffees in, get the kids sorted, ready for a fantastic afternoon's aerial entertainment. And to get this show going, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please give a massive welcome to Private Hobbs from the Parachute Regiment.
Thank you, and welcome to this afternoon's display, brought to you by the British Army's parachute display team, the Red Devils. My name's Private Hobbs, as I was introduced to you just there. My job today is to talk to you about the display as it's unfolding in front of you, as well as giving you a little bit background about the team as well. So with me on the ground then, we have Private Henderson in the middle of the arena. As you can see, he's laid out the cross for us in the middle of the arena as well. So this cross isn't a target for the team, although they do like to try and hit it when they can. The main purpose for the cross in the centre of the arena is it's an indicator from us on the ground down here, for those up in the plane, that it is safe for them to exit the plane and begin their descent down to the ground. If the cross was to be folded in any way into an I or a T shape, it would give another indicator either to cool off the display or that we've got high winds and a direction for them to land in. It's all a backup though. We do have radio communications to them, but if any of those communications were to go down, we'd have that cross as a last resort indicator to them up there in the plane. They'll be sticking their head out and they can see that cross from up there. If that's in a big cross like we have here today, they'll know that they're clear to run in, do their woody run, and then climb to altitude for today's display. So if you look out to see, if you haven't already seen it, the plane is flying overhead shortly. Just flew over for what we call a woody run, sorry, a dummy run. So they're flying over, they're not doing anything on that first run as they've just done, and then what they're doing now is they're going to line up for what we call the woody run. What they're going to do is they fly straight overhead, and as they're directly over that cross, they're going to throw two what we call woodies out the floor of the plane, and then these are going to fall to the ground, get blown around by the wind, and then they make their assessment up there on the plane as they're watching them all the way down to the ground. They make their assessment on the winds based off how far they get blown. They always do this woody run at 2,000 feet, which is like the plane's at now. And then, depending on how far they get blown, they make their assessment there off what the winds are doing. If they get blown really far, they know that the winds are really strong between us down here on the ground and those up in the plane. If they don't get blown very far at all, they know that the winds are quite weak. They can afford to get out later than the cross or before the cross. So throughout the display as well, in the centre of the arena for the woody run, we'll be letting off some smoke. Red signal smoke, this is an indicator as well, what the winds are doing down here on the ground. We've got a wind reader on the ground with us, but during the display we can't get communications to them, so they've always got eyes on the smoke canister that's going off, and this is their way of judging what the winds are doing on the ground, obviously. Again, if it's going straight up in the air, we know there's not very much wind. If it's going straight across the ground, we know there's a lot of wind. Don't worry, the smoke is non-toxic, no one's going to die of breathing it in. We'll try and set it off away from you. We're going to set it off towards the side of the landing area. If you'd like to move away from there, then that's where the smoke will be getting set off from. If you want to come more to the land side of the landing area, then you won't be set off by the smoke. So whilst we're waiting for this plane to come in for the woody run, I'll give you a bit of a background history about the team. Who are the Red Devils then? The Red Devils was formed in 1964 by Lieutenant Colonel Edward Gardner, formed the original Parachute Regiment Battalion of Freefall Parachute Display Teams. Our mission then, as it is now, is to engage with members of the public on behalf of the British Army in order to promote the Army to the public and hopefully to engage with you and try and promote some of you to join the Army as well. Secondary to this, we also provide tandems for the British public as well, so we're fully booked for this year, but if anyone's interested in signing up next year and wants to throw either themselves or their significant other out of a plane at 12,500 feet, fall towards the ground at over 120 miles an hour, attached to one of us unfortunately sometimes, but we'll pull the parachute for you at 6,000 feet, and then you can fly yourself down towards the ground and we'll land for you. So if anyone's interested, fortunately, we are fully booked for this year. If you head along to the Red Devils website, on there you can find all the information that you need if you are interested in signing up for a tandem with us in the future. The last thing we do then is the Red Devils, whilst we're waiting for the planes to come in for the Woody Run, is we provide training for the specialist units within the British Army as well. So we train a lot of special forces as well as Pathfinder units. They'll come down, do some training with us. We'll train them on both their landing and then we'll give them some extra little coaching tips in their free fall as well. Not role specific, but a little bit of a side note for them. So as you can see, they've set the smoke off in the centre of the arena. That's as the plane is flying over the head for Woody Run. If you watch up towards the plane, you might see two long pieces of red and yellow craft paper fly up the back of the plane. Very technical pieces of equipment, I know. And on the bottom of those, there's a little piece of silicon, which is our weight on the bottom. Unfortunately, we can't offer any prizes for anybody that catches these goodies, so no prizes for returning those to us. There you go, you can see them out now. Two long pieces of red and yellow craft paper. Anyone with a keen eye might also be able to spot the jump master. He'll be sticking his head out the side of that door and he'll be watching those woodies all the way down to the ground, watching how far they get blown. They will also be able to see you down here on the ground and hear you from up there as soon as they open their parachutes on exit. The plane's probably a little loud at the moment, but as soon as they get out and they're under parachutes, they'll be able to hear you. So if you give them a big cheer as soon as that first person opens their parachutes, they will hear you up there. Okay, so as I said, Henderson's in the middle of the arena now. He's giving the wins to the people up on the plane, so he's telling them what we're getting on an average and then what we're also getting on a gust. So they're up there making their decisions off those woodies and what we're getting down here on the ground as to where they want to set up. If they want to set up, we've got really strong winds, they'll set up a lot further upwind. If we've got weak winds, then they'll set up a lot closer to the drop zone as they're not going to get as much push on the canopy. We can jump into up to 20 knots of wind, which, those of you that don't know, that's 23 miles an hour of wind. The parachute on landing has a normal speed of 20 knots, 23 miles an hour. However, with the landings that we do, with the high performance turns that we do at the low rates, you can land up to 50 miles an hour with the fast canopies that will be down first. That's ground speed as well, not relative to the wind, so it helps when we've got a lot of wind to slow us down. So I've just got confirmation from them up there in the plane now then that that's them climbing to altitude for today's display. Unfortunately, we can't really go above the cloud. There wouldn't be really much point. We're up there above the cloud, you wouldn't see us, and there'll be no point in the display. So we're going to go to cloud base, although hopefully if this cloud pushes through, we might be able to get a little bit higher. they get above 6,000 feet, we've got different plans. Obviously, there's different things take different amounts of time to do in the sky. We're hoping to do some big canopy formations for you today. So if we're limited with altitude, we may not be able to get everything done that we wanted to. But hopefully this cloud's nice and high for us, so we'll be able to get a good show on for you here. If anybody sees the plane before I do, and they see red smoke trailing out the back of the plane, don't worry, the plane isn't going down. This is an indicator to us down here on the ground that they're about to exit. If anyone sees red smoke trailing out the back of the plane, and I've not started talking about it, give us a big cheer, I can stop rambling on, and I can start talking you through the display as it's about to unfold in front of you. But that's again, please don't call any fire brigades, we have had it before, and then we've got to tell them once they've turned up that no, the aircraft isn't going down. It's just some jumpers getting out of it, and it's an indicator to us they're about to leave that plane. Is there anybody out there in the crowd with a keen eye or a pair of binoculars that's still got eyes on the plane? If anyone's out there that can point that out to me?
Oh yes, this camera. Oh, he's turned away now. Yeah. They're always saying, oh, it's our parent, you know,
Just but the windmill. Those two gentlemen. So they're around there.
Windmill about 8,000.
But it's something I didn't know years ago.
Well, I've just heard up from the jumpers up on the plane then, so they're at about 6,000 feet at the moment. So hopefully we can put on a better show for you than if we were a little lower than that. We're hoping to try and get a bigger formation in out of our canopies. They're going to fly in first for a dummy run, so hopefully you shouldn't see any red smoke trailing out the back of the plane on this first one. They're going to fly overhead, expect they're clear at this altitude, and then they'll go back around and exit the plane for us. So if anyone sees any red smoke on this first one, then that's them probably planning to exit first. They might decide that they're not going to bother with the dummy run, however, that's what I've been told on radio. I'm not expecting them to come in and jump out this time. But hopefully they'll be overhead shortly for the action jump. So while we wait for this plane to do its dummy run, you can just see it flying straight over the top of me here now, just above those clouds. Don't believe they're going to exit, but hopefully they are going to do that shortly. Hopefully this dummy run is going to stay nice and tight above us, and then they're going to exit on the next pass above us. So a little bit about the team then, whilst we wait for the dummy run and come down and run past. All members of the team are from one of the 3 regular parachute regiment battalions or the 1 reserve battalion. We have 14 members on the team at the moment. We also have a slot for a reservist that is currently filled. Those 14 is including 1 team sergeant and an officer as well. All members of the team have initially come from one of the 3 regiments, the parachute regiment, 3 battalions of the parachute regiment. They've all done their initial basic training up in Catterick, and then gone to either 2 or 3 para, and then from there potentially onto 1 para as well. We have 2 members from 1 para at the moment. I've got it. So once they've joined one of the 3 battalions of the parachute regiment, all members of the team ideally serve a minimum of 3 years, as well as getting 2 overseas deployments and preferably an operational tour. However, those are few and far between these days. We'll take what we can get in terms of operational tours, but ideally 3 years to get some experience in the army itself, and some overseas deployments as well to get some wider army experience. I've just heard on the radio as well that they are flying in for their jump run now, and they are going to offset towards the south, so towards the, if you look up, unfortunately it's going to be right where the sun is, but hopefully we'll see them shortly. Hopefully we'll see them exit the plane. Once again, if anyone sees that red smoke before I do, give us a big cheer. They will hear you all the way up there at 6,000 feet. And especially they'll definitely hear you once they've opened their parachute. So if anyone sees that plane with red smoke trailing behind it before I do, give us a big cheer. I'll stop rambling on and actually talk to you about the display. Does anybody have eyes on the plane? We keep trying to have a look from up here, but we keep just seeing seagulls. Does anyone think that they can actually see the plane or got it on flight radar that they might be able to see where it is? Okay, so we've got the flight radar up here on the ground, and we believe that they're running in through the clouds over the land side of the arena. They should be flying from Cardiff way over towards west. But once again, none of us can see the plane down here, and unfortunately we've turned the radios off up there in the plane, so if anybody sees it before I do, or sees that red smoke especially, give us a big cheer, and we'll all look up towards the plane, hopefully see it as well. Okay, there you go. Right, ladies and gentlemen, if you look to the west, you can see our wingsuiter just coming out the top of the clouds. Fortunately, he must have exited above those clouds, and these people over the clouds all around us now. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see them exiting the plane itself, although the plane is just finishing its jump run, and you've just got to see the last person exiting the plane there. So that wingsuit that we unfortunately missed the full flight of, that will be Corporal Stephen Hanley, will be the jump master for today's display. So either he or Lance Corporal Oliver Goss, who is the secondary jump master for today's display. They're going to both race down towards the ground. Everybody else that's flying up above them is going to keep their eyes on those two jumpers, and they're going to set the landing pattern for everybody else to follow. All those jumpers that are up above them, it looks like we've got Lance Corporal Oliver Goss. They're setting the landing pattern for us first today. Straight over the top of the landing area with that smoke trailing behind him. The jump master for today's display, Lance Corporal Oliver Goss. Can we get a big cheer for Ollie Goss as he comes into land, please? Going to set up nice and high and get as much speed as he can out of his canopy as he comes into land. Fight all that wind that we've got in for today's display. Closely followed behind Ollie Goss, we have Corporal Stephen Hanley from the wingsuit. Behind Ollie and Steve then, flying the Union Jack flag, we have Lance Corporal Danny Watson. And slightly behind Danny, we have Lance Corporal Adam Bellingham, proudly flying the Welsh flag for us as well. As I said, all those those two jumpers behind Ollie and Steve. They were watching their pattern all the way down and watching where they land, make any adjustments they need to off their turns. They're using those as further woodies so they can see where they land off. If they land short or long of that cross, they can then make their adjustments so that they can land safely as well. If you look over to the west then, away from Swansea, right up at the top you can see one of the canopy formations I was talking to you about earlier. So what we have up there is we have 4 canopies that have all attached themselves together, and we have the cameraman behind them. So what they'll do is they'll exit straight after each other, and they'll watch each other as they're exiting the plane, and then as that last person exits the plane, he'll pull his parachute straight away. The person behind him will pull as soon as he sees the person above him pull, and so on and so on. This leaves them nice and close together. They can all see each other, they're all nice and close as soon as they've opened their parachutes. And then what they'll do is they'll fly nice and tight to each other, and then they'll intentionally crash into the back of one another. From there, they'll then climb into the centre of the canopy of the person that's just crashed into them, put their feet through the lines of that parachute, and then they'll climb down those lines. From there, they'll grab onto the person below them and above them, and then, as you can see, there's 2 parachutes that are in the middle. What they'll have done is they'll got nice and tight, and then they'll have attached up at the hip with what we call probes. These are detachable, and this allows us to manipulate our canopies against each other so that we can cause our canopies to dive towards the ground and build up even greater speed towards the ground as well. And there you go, as you can see at the bottom we've just deployed our 2,000 square foot British Army flag being flown by Corporal Henry Mole. And the whole formation being piloted at the top by Lance Corporal Cameron Clark. Cameron Clark's been staff pilot on the team for a few years. He's done over 2,000 crew jumps such as this one here today. Not all as big as this jump that we're doing today. Like I said, if we don't get as much height as we managed to today, we might put something where there's 2 or 3 parachutes attached together. But it all depends on how high we manage to get and whether they manage to achieve it under the canopy. It all takes quite a lot of skill. You've got to be quite accurate, manage to pin each other with those parachutes in mid-air. We're going to come in at the right speed, the right height, and not hit each other too hard. As you can see, cameraman behind them, Team Sergeant Nathan Fisher, he's going to get out of their way. They've got plenty of space. Come in as the formation that they are, and he's going to do his landing pattern for us as well. Head up nice and high, build up as much speed as he can, fight all that wind all the way in, come down nice and quickly for the landing today. And there you go as well. Diamond, bringing it in all the way into landing. Going to split right at the bottom, as they're doing now. Split that probe, and everyone's landing together. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. That's all 9 members of the parachute display team from today's display, down safely onto the ground. What they're going to do now then, they're all going to take off their parachute equipment, take off their rigs, take off their helmets, and they're going to put on their maroon berets, and then they're going to come and form a line-up for salute. Taking the salute today was the Lord Mayor. We have Chancellor Paxton Hood-Williams. He's going to go out and meet the team. Say a quick hello to everyone. Congratulations, well done. Quick handshake. And then the team's going to head off to our marquee, which is located by the 360 area. Over by our marquee, we have some VR headsets, so if any of you fancy experiencing a display from our point of view, we have some 360 cameras that we put on our heads for a lot of displays. We've uploaded these onto some VR headsets. So over in our marquee, if you manage to find it, not just for the children, along and have a go on the marquee as well.
Well, thank you very much indeed. That was Private Hobbs of the Parachute Regiment representing the British Army Parachute Display Team, and our grateful thanks to Councillor Paxton Hood Williams there for taking the salute, who of course is our local mayor. But diving straight in now, you can see a little airplane called a Tutor. To tell you all about that, please welcome Flying Officer Isabel Woods.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Well, we've already started with the 2024 Royal Air Force Tutor display. Bob came in at 200 miles an hour, and he's pulled up at 5G to complete the first manoeuvre of the Hammerhead. He's now sitting at -2G, upside down, for the inverted pass. Bob was born in Carmarthen and did his first flying lesson out of Swansea Airport, and started his flying career in the Royal Air Force in 1989, flying the VC-10 out of RAF Grob Tutor, and then as a search and rescue pilot on the Sea King. This is Bob's first year with the Tutor display. He is operating at a base height of 500 feet, except the two final passes at 300 feet. That manoeuvre there was the wing over, and then the next one is the ballistic roll, which Bob can use to gain energy for the next part of the sequence. The ballistic rolls are flown in opposite directions to maintain his line. Flying the Tutor requires careful energy management due to its low power-to-weight ratio. When not displaying, Bob is a qualified flying instructor on 115 Squadron based at RAF Wittering, where he trains the future generation of Royal Air Force pilots, as well as converting frontline pilots into qualified flying instructors. During his varied career, Bob has amassed over 8,000 hours on 15 different aircraft types. Bob is now entering the slow roll. This is a great manoeuvre for getting some great angles on your camera. The Tutor has a top speed of 212 miles per hour and can achieve maximum positive 6G, meaning that the pilot is subjected to forces 6 times stronger than gravity. Next, we have another wing over, a combined pitching and rolling manoeuvre used to turn the flight path through 180 degrees. You'll notice that every wing over is slightly different, as Bob carefully selects his flight path to cater for differing wind conditions and aircraft energy states. The Tutor is constructed of a carbon composite material and has a 180 horsepower Lycoming piston engine. Bob now rolls 90 degrees while pointing straight up before completing a stall turn at almost 0 airspeed. The two 90-degree turns allow Bob to continue in the same direction. The Tutor is operated by No. 6 Flying Training School in partnership with Babcock International Group, primarily flying University Air Squadron students and RAF Air Cadets. There are 13 air experience flights across the UK that offer flights to up to 20,000 cadets each year, and this could be you if you are between 12 and 17 years old. Unlike the last stall turn, this one is flown conventionally, exiting in the opposite direction to the entry. In the next manoeuvre, the 4-point roll, Bob delicately uses the rudder to support the nose above the horizon while flying at 90 degrees angle of bank. You may have noticed the Royal Air Force Benevolent Fund heart on the belly of this aircraft. It's been since 2022 to celebrate this fantastic charity. The Benevolent Fund supports the Royal Air Force personnel, air cadets and veterans whenever they are in need, and we're very proud to raise awareness for a charity that gives so much to the whole of the RAF family. Visit our tent, website or view our Tutor display leaflets to access a QR code to donate to the Benevolent Fund today. For those of you that are considering going to university, there are 15 University Air Squadrons across the UK. Students on the University Air Squadrons are taught to fly the Tutor by highly experienced military flying instructors. University Air Squadrons provide a huge opportunity for personal development as well as a wide variety of adventure training in the UK and expeditions across the globe. We are now in a high energy section of the display with the Derry 10, Quarter Clover and now the Loop, which is a quintessential aerobatic manoeuvre. As he pulls up, Bob is subjected to 5G. He aims to pitch the aircraft around an imaginary circle in the sky, and even when inverted, the centrifugal forces keep him pressed into his seat. Today, the Royal Air Force is recruiting for multiple rewarding and demanding professions and has an exciting future ahead of it with the continued development of our combat and maritime patrol aircraft and UK Space Command. These will soon be joined by the introduction of our airborne early warning aircraft, the E-7 Wedgetail, and new remotely piloted capabilities with the Protector. The high tempo of operations continues today with aircraft and personnel deployed around the world, operating with NATO and our other allies. Bob will now enter the final section of the display with another ballistic roll and half horizontal. I'd like to take this moment to say a big thank you to our supporters this season. They are the Royal Air Force Benevolent Fund, Squadron Prince and Babcock, who have provided much of the merchandise we are giving out at our stand this season. Bob will now bring the tutor around for his departing wave. This is another great photo opportunity. If you look carefully, you should be able to see him waving, so please give him a big wave back. A big thank you to the Wales Airshow for hosting us today. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the 2024 Royal Air Force Tutor Display.
And very well done. That was Flying Officer Isabel Woods there. And Isabel, you've obviously spent a bit of time training on this aircraft. Did you enjoy that?
Yes, I have. It's a really fantastic aircraft to fly. It teaches you all the basic principles of flight and ensures that you gain all the skills ready for the next step of your flying training.
Sounds like you know what you're doing. What are you hoping to end up on?
So I've been stream rotary, so I will go on to Shawbury to fly helicopters and then hopefully onto the Chinook later in.
Just like your dad, although he never got to Chinook.
No, Dad was Army Air Corps, so I've not quite followed in his footsteps.
I must be jolly proud. Well, that's great. I mean, very nicely done. And we've been watching the Tutor for years. I've flown it myself. It's a great little sports aircraft. Nice to tour around the country. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and look forward to seeing you at another show later in the year.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Okay, well, coming up now, something completely different, because we've got two formations in one go, if you like to speak. So the pilots were chatting away after the briefing this morning and thought, well, wouldn't it be fun if we actually sort of did a little bit together? Well, I can hear them chatting away on the airwaves behind me now, and it sounds like they've managed to get themselves in the right bit of airspace. So we're just going to see a couple of passes of both the Gazelle formation, the Gazelle display team, of course, 4 Gazelles, and they are very locally homegrown Team Raven, which has got 6. So we're about to see 10 aircraft in formation, 6 fixed wing, all RVs, of course, and 4 Gazelles, a similar type, but all in very different colours. So this is a one-off. If you look over to the right-hand side now, coming in, you'll see this formation. The Raven's smoke is on. Unique photographic opportunity celebrating this Wales National Air Show in conjunction with the Armed Forces Day as well. Please welcome this magnificent formation, 10 aircraft, the Team Raven and the Gazelle Display Squadron. So flying dissimilar formations that can always be a little bit tricky, particularly in a bumpy wind like this. But the great thing is that the Gazelle's flexible rotor blades help dampen out those extra bumps, which the guys in the RVs ahead, of course, are suffering themselves. We'll hopefully, I think we're going to get another pass, and then we'll be looking at the team break before, so smoke is coming back on. We'll just listen in. Team rolling out, and of course led by Sid Shirley. You will have seen him. And there's the break coming. And I thought that was absolutely magnificent. What a lovely start to the day. It would have been nice to have seen a bit more, but sadly we're on a very, very tight schedule at the moment, and we're doing our best to get the air display back on track again. So the Gazelles will now reposition to start their display properly, and the Team Raven will head back to Swansea Airfield, and we'll see them back here at about 4:30 this afternoon. So Jim Richards, who you can hear if you're on scanners there, chatting away in the background, and he is just bringing his team back into one piece again, stabilizing the flight profile, and they'll be coming back in a few moments. They're the only civilian helicopter display team in the UK at the moment, and very sadly, of course, many others have gone by the wayside, but we hope to see a reformation resurgence in years to come. They're presenting 4 display aircraft. They have been displaying in pairs for quite a while now, but this will take you back to the days, if you're a little more senior, to the Royal Navy Sharks and the Army Air Corps Eagles, who incidentally I managed myself for a couple of years. The Gazelle itself is designed by aerobatic in the south of France in the late 1960s. A lovely little sports car it is to fly as well, very agile, as you'll see from this display. Actually a 5-seat aircraft, but the 3 in the back is a bit tight. Braking now to start their formation display proper. The aircraft was used by all 3 services for pilot training, battlefield observation, light transport, reconnaissance, and in the case of the British Army, for what we refer to as air observation post, and that's designed and developed during the course of the Second World War to direct artillery fire onto the enemy. That was the first rotary aircraft to feature that distinctive ducted tail fan rotor. That's called a fenestron. Linguists amongst you will probably recognize that as being linked to the French name for a window, fenêtre. The whole team is staffed by volunteer pilots. Leading today, Jim Richards, I mentioned, he joined the Army straight from school at the age of 18, commissioned into the Royal Artillery, the same regiment his grandfather, father and uncle served in. They've come today from their operating base at Landmead Airfield near Wantage. We're also very lucky to have volunteer ground crew who give up their time to support them around the display circuit. But of course, grateful thanks, not possible without the generosity of the owners of these aircraft, which is Falcon Aviation. Immaculately presented and arguably in better condition mechanically and cosmetically than when they were actually serving in the forces. I can't say the same for the pilots, some of whom I've known for many, many decades, all sharing the odd little grey tinge in their hair now, but lovely to reconnect with them last night. Gazelle has a cruising speed, tops about 164 miles an hour, and a maximum speed of 193, but not something you would do very often. But still holds the record as the fastest single-engine helicopter manufactured to date. Going through their motions now in singletons, breaking through into various formation details. Bringing up in the number 2 position behind Jim Richards, we've got Andy Wellesley, again an ex-Army pilot who flies for well over 40 years and who initially with the Royal Marines and operated around the world in the Falklands, Belize, Bosnia and Cyprus, crewing well over 2,000 hours just on the Gazelle. But now flying the more comfortable executive global 6,000 business. Notable and distinctive whine coming from the engine. So much by the way the air is compressed into the leading edge of the intake. Flight number 3, Andy Asher, 27 years in the Royal Marines, served on operations as well around the world, including 3 tours in Northern Ireland. Moving into echelon left now, they'll be positioning around the track there to brake once again in front of us. Another good opportunity for those keen on photography. And let's not forget, flying up the rear and doing an awful lot of administration and management for the team is Kev Matheson. He flew with the Royal Navy 4 different types. He flew the Gazelle, the Sea King, the Merlin and the Seahawk, joining back in 1982. And would you believe has flown 10 different types of aircraft with over 4,500 hours to his credit. Lovely braking manoeuvre, pulling up high as number 4 pulls out, and the other 3 moving into what we call line astern. In the background, pulling the team now back into Vic for their positioning, whilst number 4 finishes off that steep climbing turn of his. And his aim is to fly through the middle of the formation, heading in the other direction. So keep your eyes peeled for this next manoeuvre. Here they are lining up. All the pilots, unsurprisingly, love flying these aircraft. A reputation is for being incredibly powerful and responsive. No real vices to it at all. A superb machine. Very often referred to as the E-type Jaguar of the skies. Equally nicknamed, however, the Screaming Chicken. And I think that's fairly obvious from the design. And there's Kev flying through the formation, while Jim calls them back into line. Line astern frequently used as a methodology for braking and changing through different formation maneuvers. It just enables it to be done very slowly and precisely. You notice by now all the different colours representing many aspects of the Gazelle's history throughout its military service. The lead aircraft is actually an ex-test pilot school H2, and you'll see a little probe on the front end of that, so that enables accurate measurements of the aircraft whilst going through airflow. The second aircraft is an ex-Royal Air Force Gazelle from Royal Air Force Shawbury, but was also used by the 27th Squadron down Anatolia. And that was essentially to carry out reconnaissance missions during daylight for the low-level nighttime navigants that the pilots went up to do as part of their training. Third one you now see is an ex-Royal Air Force Gazelle as well. Sold eventually on into civilian use, and right at the back end there, the Royal Navy 705 Squadron machine flown by Kev Matheson, who actually qualified on that machine when he went through training himself some decades. Again, the Gazelle's now zipping around the flight circuit. Drop back into the cockpit now, give you an opportunity for the next break. It'll be into 2 sets of pairs. And very competently done indeed. You can just feel the agility in these machines. Absolutely great pleasure. Good observation platform as well, but also handy for utility. And occasionally, as in the Falklands War, very early on, the Royal Marines equipped their Gazelles with lightweight machine guns. Sadly, that didn't prove to be a terribly effective methodology against the force they were facing on ground at the time. Guys peeled now as the team avoids colliding. Of course, lots of training and practice going into this. Calling now a tactical turn, very tight repositioning manoeuvre. Coming in now to the final sequence of events. You can follow the team on Twitter, Insta, and of course Facebook if you wish, get to know more about them. Great to see back in a full-ship formation, and I know they are very popular aspects on the air display circuit. So good to see these guys back in the air again. So coming back into roulette formation for their final break. So here we go, running in now for a final break. And there we hear them signing off in the background on my radio. That was the Gazelle Squadron display team bidding us farewell, and absolutely superb display indeed. And let's hope we see lots more of these guys on the road as well.
Ie, felly, llwyth o adloniant ddal I ddod. Still plenty to come here, of course, at the Wales Airshow. Croeso cynnes i chi gyd i'r sioe awyr Cymru yn bai Abertawe. A warm welcome to the Wales Airshow here in Swansea Bay. Some great displays already with the Red Devils, the Tutor, the Gazelles there, and the Ravens, and plenty more still to come in the air, but of course on the ground, plenty of displays. Llwyth I ddod ar y ddeiar yma hefyd. Llwyfan ar heolger Pavilion Patty, gyda raglen o adloniant byw yn cael ei cynnal drwy gydol prynhawn heddi. There's a stage located on the road near the Patty Pavilion with a host of programme of live entertainment throughout the afternoon. Just to give you an idea, the Rock Choir are on there right now, so if you want to check those guys out near the Armed Forces section, the Rock Choir on stage. That's followed by Dave Wisby, and then again the Rock Choir and Bel Canto Village Tour. So lots to see on the ground. We've got the Band of the Prince of Wales, a band Tywysog Cymru, those large combat vehicles, Cerbydau Ymlydd Mawr, a hefyd the Veterans Village, supported by the Royal British Legion, and the Swansea Covenant Marquee, with the representatives of service veterans, charities and support groups. But as we've said all across the weekend, we'd love your messages. See how far you've come today. Do let us know. Hashtag Wales Airshow on the socials, Facebook, Instagram and X. Do get in touch.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jay. We're just having a terrific time. We're keeping the pace going just to get the timetable back on track for you this afternoon. But I hope you all are having a really, really super day. Really great professional job there from the Gazelle Squadron. And now something very, very different coming our way. It sounds strange. It looks strange because we're going back to the years of the very first generation of jet aircraft in the Royal Air Force inventory, something that effectively comes out of the design stables of the late 1940s, and of course the time when the Royal Air Force was pushing ahead hard to utilize the power of jet in its frontline fighter force. This little aircraft, however, right in front of you now, has come all the way from Norway. And it's quite a neat little machine, isn't it? And the pilot in it is also come from Norway because he owns this aircraft. He's called Ken Alpina, and this is the Havilland Vampire FB5. And it's also in special colours this year because they are celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Royal Auxiliary Air Force. Great supporter of all things British, and particularly Royal Air Force Ken, despite being Norwegian. Got an amazing background, lovely chap, and an interesting stable of aircraft that he owns and operates over there. He owns a second two-seat trainer Vampire in addition to this, as well as the ever-popular MiG-15, which we just love to see. Alongside that, it's got a T-Bird and uses a whole range of different experienced pilots to fly all the aircraft. So Ken heads up an organisation called the Norwegian Air Force Historical Squadron, a non-profit organisation dedicated to keeping unique aircraft like this where they belong, which of course is up in the air. They display the aircraft as much as they can throughout Europe, and what Ken does to keep the cost down is deploy an aircraft across to Britain and leave it either at Duxford or North Weald, where he'll then fly backwards and forwards. In fact, he's flying home on a commercial aircraft late this evening back to Oslo. The aircraft are based at Riga Air Base, just to the south of Oslo itself. The Gazelle Historic Squadron was founded back in 2008, and their first Vampire was acquired in 2005. This is being a fascinating aircraft in many ways. It's the export version of what was the Mark 6. Over 101 of these were built. 36 were exported to Norway and used there between 1949 and 1957. Of course, Ken flying it as gently as possible, keeping the G down, of course, to prevent extending the fatigue, or rather to extend the fatigue line of the aircraft, and preventing any further damage or limitations that obviously wishes to avoid. This particular aircraft was built under license in Switzerland in 1952 and flew originally with the Swiss Air Force, before then going on to French ownership, before being acquired back into Sweden initially, and with Ken Oslo. Ken is down here. If you look up closely, he's temporarily decorated this particular aircraft into Royal Auxiliary Air Force Squadron markings just for this season to celebrate the 100th anniversary. And the cameo amongst you may well, I don't know if you've seen the film, Disney film The Shepherd, but it was used during the filming of this, of that particular story up at MOD Sculthorpe, a British drama short film written and directed by Ian Softley, but also starred Ben Radcliffe and John Travolta. John was acting as the executive producer and himself, of course, a great fan of all things aviation, being a pilot for many decades. Ken himself got a huge amount of experience, both as a Norwegian Air Force pilot and then latterly as a commercial civilian airline pilot. Started out originally on gliders, worked his way through, earned himself around 1,500 hours in military flying. Trained a lot of people in the art of forward air controlling, which is basically guiding aircraft into ground targets. And then flying SAS, mainly Boeing Airlines, the entire 7 series of aircraft from about 1928 onward. But his huge passion really being for historic and classic events to be here. Neat little aircraft, he's just setting up now for his final pass, and you know what to do. You give all the pilots a good wave off today. But this particular guy's come a very long way. You might say in the past this would have been at the front end of the fights with 420mm cannons or 8 rockets, or even possibly 2 500-pound rockets. But here comes Ken now, final pass in the Vampire FB5. Really superb display, and wish him well and a great flight home. Thanks, Ken. Look forward to seeing you again very soon. Brilliant.
Nawr cofiwch, dyn ni am clywed eich negeseuon chi ar draws y bynhawn. Don't forget, we'd love to hear your messages here at the Wales Airshow in Swansea Bay. Yn y sioe awyr Cymru yma ger bai Abertawe, digwyddiad am ddim mwyaf yng Nghymru. The largest free event in Wales, which is great to have it on our doorstep right here in Swansea, and the glorious skies over the last couple of days. We weren't too sure about today's weather, but the skies have cleared, the weather's brightened up, and it's another great day down here in Swansea Bay. So if you do want to get in touch with us, hashtag Wales Airshow on the socials. We are on Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly Twitter. I know many of you getting in touch with us yesterday with some of those shout outs. So please do let us know how far you travelled today. What have you enjoyed most? Maybe what are you looking forward to? We've got an action-packed calendar, of course, still to come across the afternoon. Many may be looking forward to the Typhoon. To finish off the afternoon later, hello to Ant Metcalf and the team who are here today. Lewis enjoying the Vampire, just sharing some pictures of that from down below. So lots of you quick to post your pictures up on the socials as well. So that's hashtag Wales Airshow.
Super. Yeah, it's great to have all the interaction, and note how many people are online with us as well, watching the feed from AeroView. If you haven't found that yet, it's just aeroview.tv, and you'll be able to see the wonderful afternoon we've got here at the Wales Airshow, brought to us by Swansea Council. A really superb vista. The visibility seems to be absolutely endless, and it is the perfect day for every pilot to show us the best of their professionalism, both the nature of the aircraft and, of course, their own work as well, displaying it to us. And coming up next, the first of our really zippy, high-impact energy pilots in the case of the Starlings, featuring former British aerobatic champions Tom Cassels and Michael Pickin. Hear them checking in on the radio now. Be coming to you very, very shortly. These aircraft right at the cutting edge of modern aircraft technology. Really, really outstanding performer. Called the Extra NG. It's one of the most modern, purpose-designed and built unlimited aircraft in the world, specializing exclusively in high-performance unlimited aerobatics. You may well have seen many other extras flying, most popularly with, of course, the Blaze that were with us for around 15 years or so, and very sadly decided to stop display flying just last year. Hugely successful aircraft manufacturer, fired by Walter Extra back in 1987. He himself was a former German aerobatic champion. See the smoke come on, you'll see how outstanding these two are at both close pairs formation flying and then individual unlimited aerobatics. It almost happens far too fast to be able to talk about it, but the whole genre of avalanches, roulades, spins, turns, rolls, flick rolls, and here they come in from the left now. Please welcome Tom Cassels, Michael Picking, the Starlings. This range of aircraft has been tweaked, refined and improved over the past 4 decades, with sales across the globe making it one of the most popular display aircraft going. Starting off with their signature dotty smoke, and that's controlled and a signature mark of theirs as well, enabling them to not just carve various pretty designs in the sky, but also to do what we call is sky typing, sky writing, being able to spell out messages in the sky. That's the sound of Tom there in the front, pulling up a good 6-7G there, if not a tweak more, but you cannot quite understand everything that's going on in the cockpit, but here the wingman, Michael, having complete and utter faith in Tom, they've worked very closely together, hugely successful individual pilots, and Tom, just decades and decades. In fact, he was telling us some wonderful stories last night in the bar, just what he's learned. He knows every corner of these aircraft and the foibles and fickleness of how to fly them. The 300 NG is another huge leap forward for the design and history of these all carbon fiber airframes. But one of the things we noted was just the sheer amount of comfort in the aircraft that they have now. They used to be very noisy, bumpy, and drafty aircraft, but in this one, much improved aerodynamics, higher degree of maneuverability, and precise handling. Described as a very fresh and really fast aircraft. Here, of course, the formation pilot has to listen into the cadence of the words that each leader, you'll get to know this during the course of the afternoon. His aim is to replicate exactly the movement, and with the right timing, of course, of the lead pilot, in this case Tom, calling the shots. Coming up now for what we call the barrel roll, where they will replicate flying around the outside of a huge great barrel of whatever your tipple is. And again, Michael's job is to absolutely replicate all that cadence and movements precisely at the same moment, anticipating the way Tom is flying the aircraft ahead. And a lovely right over the top there. They look back over the tops of their heads to ensure everything is aligned and in position, but also making sure that they're horizontal with planet Earth as they go through the top of the loop. Both these pilots have a combined aerobatic experience of well over 50 years in all sorts of air shows, competitions, and they've flown all over the world as solo acts and as part of other formations as well. Really lovely to see them carving shapes. It's such a beautiful day as today. Wonderful experience. Just putting in a slight turn there to go out on the leader 270, pulling tight back in now. Just looks and sounds exactly the right sort of aircraft you need, doesn't it, for high performance work. But they haven't even started yet on the most dynamic tumbling, rolling and gyroscopic maneuvers that are yet to see. Rudder going in now for the combined pair stall turn. You're almost run out of airspeed at the top of that, but you just, when you've got a little bit of airflow left, just put that rudder kick in to ensure that you safely come out the other side, rather than just letting it fall and tumble back through the airstream. Superb rolling brake there as well. Fantastic. Now we start the action. Keep your eyes peeled on both of them. And then we snap rolling as they climb. Now you can hear it goes on the end of that cadence there. That final phrase is when the action actually happens. Here we go, the G coming on hard, all the blood is running down to the legs and they have to squeeze really, really hard to maintain that, rolling as they wait, as they go up. And just instead of stall turning, pulling the aircraft over with a final few knots running over the wings. Tom is current display authorization evaluator, absolute wealth and legend of knowledge for aerobatics for several decades. Michael was the youngest person ever to become the British aerobatic champion. These guys just bringing this out for pleasure here today. Michael, I know, spends the rest of his time, not his part-time, but most of his time, of course, flying commercial airliners as well. And here, repositioning now is smoke on for the heart. And we'll dedicate this all to the wonderful ladies, Caroline and her team on the Swansea event management team, doing a fantastic job looking after everybody's needs and running a top show. So what we're getting into now is high energy, unlimited aerobatics, very shortly, as they show off the skill sets that they both had. And that smoke being used not just for aesthetics, but of course also to ensure safety positioning, so both pilots know exactly where each aircraft is. Starting off slow, speeding up those rolls. Rolling rates are achievable in excess of 420 degrees a second. Pulling well up to plus or minus 10 G. Tom's been flying for the best part of 40 years now, having got his PPL in 1983, flown well over 40 different types with over 7,000 hours of experience. You see that not only the agility, but also the ability and rate of roll. We perform a series of Omchavacs, and they're very much known as the Czech headache cocktail. Tom gone into aerobatics about 10 years after he started flying, having been introduced by Pete Clark on a Slingsby Firefly. Won his first contest at Brighton that same year. Went on and on to win the Tiger Trophy, before then flying a Lynn for a number of years up at the UK Advanced Level Championships. And many years with the Cap 23 team, which we saw him displaying for many, many years indeed. Letting the aircraft just literally weight of the engine, popping it back down to earth, using this energy now, not just the speed, but the power and weight of the aircraft, be able to enter the next range of dynamic, vertical maneuvers. 4-point turn on the way up there, letting it slide through there now, and just flying vertically on its knife edge outside. Most fair. Tom there just handing over now to Michael, dotting his smoke there, so Tom knows exactly where he is to clear the airspace. Never getting bored, making use of every moment of airspace. Coming in fast, using that energy now, pulling a lot of G now, head and body weighing heavily into the seat. Slowly rolls, speeds it up. Oh, and then a couple of tumbles at the top. Quickly regaining, obviously, the speed and appropriate angles, pulling tight there as well. This G snapping in and out very, very fast. Something you have to train incredibly for, physically as well as mentally. Tumbling and spinning these aircraft, very much like putting yourself in a washing machine and putting it onto fast spin, not for the light-hearted. And you see the rate of roll there, amazingly well demonstrated. Very deft use of the stick there, just coming over the top there, looking as if it was going into something like a half Cuban, but correcting, and then just and because they have such a bag and such a high agenda of different maneuvers, they can amend this right through the course of the display itself. Not necessarily working to an entirely set pattern, but adjusting for the wind. Notice that with that wind at high level, the tendency drift to our left-hand side. corrected by penetrating back in with another energy maneuver and speed back towards our right-hand side. Michael started flying at a very young age, inspired by his father, winning his first aerobatic competition, would you believe, at just 14 years old. Was the youngest person ever to be awarded a CA display authorization for display flying. At 23, he became the youngest ever British Advanced National Aerobatic Champion. Today is still the youngest unlimited level aerobatic pilot in Europe. Equally passionate about vintage aircraft as well, and flying a Booker Youngman, and was also one of the youngest Spitfire pilots to qualify as well. Flown over 50 different aircraft types, and now a very active commercial pilot on the Boeing 75s and 767 series. And that is Tom just rolling there. You see he was getting the timing right, making sure that the aircraft were on the right track. Now, this is a long time to hang upside down in your straps, but he's well used to it. In fact, does this several times a week, and indeed you need to keep us current on this. But nonetheless, look how incredibly tight Michael is tucked in, keeping a very, very close formation flight past. One inverted, one right there. Rolling out now. And at the end of that run, Tom just calls that they are complete and is recovering back to Swansea Airport over to our right-hand side. Well, utterly exhausting, even just watching that. Amazing. I don't know whether Jay's done anything quite like that. You said you flew, I think, a Grob?
Yeah, Grob Tutor. Now, it's interesting to do some of the aerobatics because you forget you mentioned the G that people might not understand, just the effect that has on the body upside down, or, you know, when you're pulling these maneuvers, it's a lot of difficulty to face, isn't it, on the body, that strain?
Oh, yeah, you've got to be fit. It's not something you can just nip in and do easily. You've got to prepare for it, you've got to train for it, and you've got to know exactly what the straining maneuvers are. You probably didn't do that straight away. You probably thought, oh my goodness, you know, and it does hit you quite hard. But the pace at which they were doing it is a different level altogether, because, you know, flicking through those rolls at any time and then snapping high G on straight away from literally very little G to 6 or 7 G immediately in a split second is very tough.
It's incredible. And when it comes to Typhoon a little later, there's these G suits, of course, that these pilots will wear to make sure that supports the body. And there's a lot of force that goes through that.
Yeah, very much so. We'll chat about that a bit more later on. But that enables them, of course, in combat to achieve much, much higher G turns. So we're talking 9G in the Typhoon. And sustaining that is really, really hard. So they have suppression equipment which tries to stop the blood going down to your. And that's the important thing. Now, with negative G, it's really hard. That's pretty painful. You can't stop the blood going in the other direction, but it does fill your head, often reds out the pilots. Yeah, it's a tough world. It's a tough world in those cockpits.
Indeed. Now, we are doing shout-outs. Of course, a hello to Caitlin and Lewis Davis, who enjoyed the show today. Tell Daddy and Mommy to get coffee. Come on, Gareth Davis. So hello to you, Caitlin and Louis Davis. So do get in touch on the socials. Don't forget, hashtag Wales Airshow. Quick thanks hefyd, ni am gweud ddiolch heddi. Dewch draw i'r stondin yn y pentref arbennig. Why not pop over and visit the Trade Village for your chance to play Spin the Wheel with Travel House and the Flight Deck for a chance to win £1,000 with EasyJet.
Yeah, well, look out now, because we have got a very special treat indeed in the form of a Rolls-Royce Mark 19 Spitfire. What a wonderful sight and sound that is. And there is something really special, isn't there, about having a solo Spitfire at any flying vessel there. It puts shivers down your spine when we look back and reflect on the phenomenal achievement that the early fighters had. The Spitfire, of course, coming out of the Supermarine stable, the design studios of R.J. Mitchell and his men. That unique elliptical wing, sharp enough to get the speed required. Still just thick enough to get the all-essential cannons and machine guns in the earlier marks of aircraft. But this one, especially in many ways, it was the later generation mark of aircraft used for high-level reconnaissance work in Mark 19. And fitted with the more powerful 2,000 plus horsepower Griffon engine. Maintained and flown by Rolls-Royce to honour the heritage, this rich aviation story, and of course their own connection with the development of the engine. And interestingly enough, we're going to go right back to one of the very earliest Merlins a little later in the show this afternoon. This is just one of 79 built at Supermarine Southampton. Unarmed, high-altitude reconnaissance aircraft, which saw active service during the Second World War from Royal Air Force Benson, before moving off to Belgium and Holland. It remained on duty in Germany until March 1946, later taking on ceremonial duties with the early establishment of the Royal Air Force's own historic aircraft flight, now known, of course, as the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight. Flown today by Alastair Stegg Williams, an ex-Army Air Corps Lynx pilot, well known across the country, now in charge of the heritage flight for Rolls-Royce, the aircraft based at Havilland Airfield. Requirement for the additional power was essentially a Royal Air Force and Royal Naval specification for an engine capable of generating greater power at low altitudes, but of course it would be up, essentially flying at higher altitude. Development began really early, not long after the Spitfire first came into service. And certainly extended the life and development of the Spitfire. The first Griffon engine Spitfire flying much earlier than you perhaps think, November 1941. Mark 19 series of Spitfires, the last and most successful photographic reconnaissance variants of the Spitfire. The combined features of the Mark 11 with the Griffon engine of the Mark 14. After the first 25 were produced, later aircraft were also fitted with the pressurized cabin of the Mark 10, and the fuel capacity was increased to 256 gallons. That's 3.5 times that of the original Spitfire. First Mark 19s entered service in May 1944. By the end of the war, type had virtually replaced the earlier Mark 11. A total of 225 were built, with production ceasing in early 1946, and they were used in frontline RAF service right through to 1954. Just a couple of years before the establishment of the Royal Air Force historic. This particular aircraft was first delivered in January 1945 and saw active service with 16 Squadron in Belgium and Holland, where it took part in searches for the German V1 and V2 rocket launch sites. They're sadly leaving far too early for my liking, but making way for yet more venerable aircraft coming in. An absolutely magnificent display from Alistair Stake Williams. Spitfire Mark 19, brought to you by Rolls-Royce. Thank you for that.
Now, of course, today is a very special day. Mae'r sioe Awyr Cymru yn un o'r 10 raglen digwyddiadau joio bai Abertawe sy'n cynnwys yn haf o chwaraeon gyda'r wyl, para chwaraeon gyfres, para triathlon y byd a'r Ironman hefyd. And now this, of course, today, the Wales Airshow, one of the highlights of Swansea Council's Enjoy Swansea Bay programme of events that includes the Summer of Sport, the Para Sports Festival and Ironman 70.3. So if you are enjoying today, there is plenty more to check out across the summer on the website. Cofiwch, joiobayabertawe.com neu ewch draw. Head on over to enjoyswansea.bay.com for plenty more enjoyable events for the family right across the summer.
And what a summer it's turned out to be. Still a little bit chilly, but my goodness, we've had some good weather for this show this weekend. I hope we just have the right connections to book exactly the same weather again for next year. Well, coming now, having had a taste of Royal Air Force operations, albeit preserved now by Rolls-Royce, we're going to a different genre altogether to feature the background and history of the Royal Navy. This time, however, it will be led by another historic element of the Navy, which is Navy Wings. And they're very much a heritage trust that has been put together as a charity to preserve and the future of these aircraft, but also, of course, to inspire people by stories from the past, alongside a current serving aircraft from the Royal Navy. So if you look out to your left-hand side now, you'll see three complete dissimilar aircraft, leading from the front in the venerable Swordfish. Just on the other side from you, the Westland Wasp. And inside, which you'll see demonstrating a little later on, the Royal Navy's current frontline helicopter, the Wildcat, all from Yeovilton, giving us the first few minutes of flying past. In formation, our pleasure. And of course, it wouldn't be the same if we didn't, from a heritage perspective, call the rest of the Royal Navy to their flying stations for this next phase of display. So two of these aircraft, the two historic ones you can see there, the Wasp and the Swordfish, brought to you by Navy Wings, part of the recently formed Navy Wings Heritage Flight, taking on the role to preserve and fly these historic naval aircraft for us all to enjoy for many years to come. Aiming to inspire future generations, but also, perhaps equally importantly, to remember the service and sacrifice of those involved with flying with the Navy and promote a deeper understanding of the important part played by the Royal Naval Air Service and the Fleet Air Arm in the history of the country. Notably now funded entirely by public donations, of course the charity always seeking your help to keep these in the air. Just two of an impressive fleet of aircraft presented here today. They actually have other Swordfish undergoing restoration and refurbishment, but have a Supermarine Seafarer, North American Harvard, a Stinson Reliant, and of course a Tiger North. But on the jet side, additionally undergoing restoration and hopefully a return to flying a Hawker Seahawk and a Hawker Sea Fury, alongside two de Havilland Chipmunk that are used for training. All of them based at Royal Naval Air Station in Gilberton. I'll get that to display as much as possible, noting the other arm, of course, all three service arms having their own flying sections. The Navy quick to develop alongside early Army aviation requirement for aircraft at sea. Magnificent sight, although the Swordfish is actually a little more manoeuvrable. You'll see when it does its solo display a little later on just how manoeuvrable it can be, but it is of course very slow. Well within the performance range, not an issue for the rotary machines at all, just tucking in behind. So we'll listen out for the break, coming up very shortly. And we get the chance to see all three aircraft in their own rightful manner, displaying individually. There, the first one to break off is the Navy's Wildcat. We'll see Scotty coming back with that aircraft very shortly, and then pulling up now out of the formation is the Bullfish, leaving us with Steve Daniels today, who's flying the Westland Wasp. Steve, well-known name, has been involved in much flying himself and ex-test pilots in doing great hands, and what an interesting machine this is to see wheels there still rigidly fixed under that. Of course, absolutely essential for manoeuvring around the deck as opposed to the Army's equivalent on IDS. Painted in the colours of HMS Aurora's Wasp flight, and Aurora was a Leander class frigate. Originally called the Sea Scout, that's partly because it was developed alongside the Army Scout helicopter. Very similar fuselage, same roar of that Nimbus, Rolls-Royce Nimbus engine. It was one of the world's first frigate-based helicopters. Very strong, robust machine indeed, all British built. Developed originally by the old Saunders Row company before then being acquired by Westlands, also of course very close to Yeovilton and Somerset. First flew in 1963. Did excellent 25 years service before being retired from the Royal Navy in 1988. That Nimbus engine there giving about 700 shaft horsepower, replaced by the Lynx eventually in the late 80s, and then of course that in turn being replaced the Wildcats we'll see in a few minutes. This aircraft could, however, carry 2 torpedoes or 2 anti-ship missiles plus a GPMG, the general purpose machine gun. Sterling service from both the Army and the Navy with this particular mark of helicopter. First missile being fired by the Royal Navy in anger was from a Wasp at the Argentinian submarine, the ARA Santa Fe, during the Falklands conflict. It was a success. The missile hit the submarine, preventing it submerging, and thus the sub was captured. That in turn enabled other ground operations to take place. Also served with many other navies around the world: New Zealand, South Africa, Netherlands, Malaysia, Indonesia and Brazil. Generally with a crew of 1 pilot plus 1 air crewman, or missile namer, named for the Army version as well, which was armed with the SS-11 missile. Of course, in those early days we didn't have the fire and forget digital systems of today. Much harder to fight the aircraft for that technology. Can carry up to 4 passengers, however. It's also fitted with a hook for underslung loads and a winch for search and rescue work. But if you take a very close look, you'll notice that there's a large bulge towards the rear of the main fuselage, and that was to enable an entire stretcher to be fitted across the back seat. Showing the agile manoeuvring capability, not just his skill, but that of the stability of the airframe as well itself, pirouetting across the sky. The whole machine often referred to as the ship's Land Rover, of course, just because wherever you get an aircraft, it's always eventually going to be used for some sort of utility work, and this was a great people and equipment mover as well. Turning on our left-hand side, he's going to do the same at the other end at the moment. Penetrating, pushing back into that wind, of course, correcting all the time. Not quite as bad as it was yesterday, but still pretty keen wind from the west there. Coming in now for a bit of a hover and just a look-see to give you a bit of a wave off. You know what to do, boys and girls. We've just got about half a minute or so with this display running. He will just dip the nose he'll get a face full of all you wonderful people down there. So just give him a wave as well. All these guys giving up their weekends. There we go. Thanks very much, Steve Daniels in the Wasp. And really neatly done indeed. A great workhorse, the Wasp, and as the Scout was for the British Army as well. Steve makes his way off to the western hold to give us a bit of space now for the mighty Swordfish. And here she comes in the hands of, I think it's Len Allison today, a stalwart on this aircraft. Flew it many, many years ago at many displays, and delightful to see his name attached with the cockpit of this aircraft once again. And what a graceful albatross-like pass we have right in front of us at the moment. Classified as a torpedo bomber, would you believe? Big Bristol Pegasus 9-cylinder engine up the front there, producing in excess of 700 horsepower. Got a wonderful hand-cranking inertia starter system. From this, you could get about 100 knots out of it on a good day, although it has got a VNE of 200 knots, but very rarely would that be flown. Mostly potting around about 90. Crew of 3. Originally designed by Fairey as a private venture to replace the Greek Fairey 3F aircraft. Originally designated the TSR-1, the Torpedo Spotter Reconnaissance, but redesigned. The Bristol Pegasus engine up front, so redesignated the TSR-2. No relation to more modern jet-powered TSR-2, but this one first flew in 1934. Taken into frontline Navy service in 1936 as the Swordfish Mark I. You would have noted, listening onto the airwaves earlier on, that the call sign attached to this formation was the Toronto formation, and of course that takes us back to the famous attack in November 1940 when 21 Swordfish effectively stopped the Italian battle fleet from taking any big part in World War II. It was one of many activities and operations, however. War included the very famous chase after the fast and dangerous battleship the Bismarck ended when a Swordfish put a torpedo through the steering gear. The home fleet were able to sink her with gunfire. Then in February 1942, 6 Swordfish attempted to stop the Prince Eugene, the Scharnhorst and the Gneisenau from moving up the English Channel. What was known then as the Channel Dash. Ships were heavily defended by destroyers, E-boats and huge armada, and all 6 Swordfish were sadly shot down. Bravery of the crews, however, was well recognised. The commanding officer, Lieutenant Commander Eugene Esmond, was posthumously awarded the BC, one of only 2 such awards to Fleet Air Arm aircrew in World War II. Let's not forget, however, the really important work, the hard work the Swordfish played in the conflict was that of protecting the Atlantic and the Arctic convoys. Huge proportion of the war material we required came from North America. Therefore, those convoys of ships were always in danger of submarine traffic. Naval aircraft carriers, escort carriers, and merchant hulls, of course. But a mix of Swordfish and fighters were required to protect them, get as much of that equipment through as possible. Many of the accompanying ships were designated as merchant aircraft carrier ships, refitted with a flat deck welded above the hull. But with the low-speed handling characteristics that this amazing machine had, then they could operate from these small decks, whilst at the same time being able to carry out their own patrols with a 4-hour endurance in the air. That endurance, of course, helping to keep many of the enemy submarines submerged, out of contact, rendering them a lot less effective than they could have been. Swordfish actually sank an amazing 21 submarines over the course of the war, most of them whilst escorting Arctic convoys to northern Russia. Also distinctive of the Swordfish today, the D-Day colours, of course, particularly poignant in this year when we've been celebrating the 80th anniversary of D-Day. And the phenomenal contribution, just literally thousands and thousands of ships, aircraft, and of course men. Lyon Solent in those days, the Naval Air Station, one of the busiest airfields across along the southern coast of Britain. Coming by for his last pass now, he'll probably waggle his wheels, so do give Glenn a good wave. Fantastic to see this machine back around the display set. Over 600 of these were built by Fairey, with the production line then being taken over by Blackburn Aircraft, who constructed 1,700 more, earning the title of the Blackfish. And here he is with his wave now. Thanks very much, Glenn Allison from Navy Wings and the incredible Swordfish. Now, if you look a long way out to sea, you'll see another helicopter out there, right in the center of the display area, but some distance out. This, of course, the third aircraft, nominated Blackburn. You may have heard him chatting to us in the background there. And bringing with it another great pedigree, that of the Black Cat. And on the airshow circuit since 2001, and they came in as the Lynx pair. And then after receiving more support from the Navy and Augusta Westland, adopting the name of the Black Cats, derived from the Lynx Wildcat of 702 Naval Air Squadron's badge, but also, perhaps more colloquially, the naval slang of black catting, which implies having done something better or getting one up on someone else. Parent squadron is 825 Naval Air Squadron, part of the Wildcat Maritime Force based at RNAS Yeovilton in Somerset, responsible for training all Wildcat pilots and observers and looking after the flights on board Royal Navy frigates and destroyers around the world. Here now running in around 120 knots, please welcome the Royal Navy's Black Cat, the Wildcat. climbing up into initial 500-foot hover and then conducting a 90-degree nose down before breaking out to your left-hand side. In the cockpit today, commanding the aircraft, is Lieutenant Scotty Sunderland, and alongside him, keeping an eye on all the numbers and the power and the fuel and everything else, is Lieutenant Michael Vivian. Scott joined the Royal Navy in 2010 as a direct entry pilot, went on to complete his flying training, streaming eventually onto the Wildcat. Has made many operational deployments since then out in the Middle East, and also training in the maritime counter-terrorism role on interdiction, and also assisting in maritime terrorism incidents. See a lot of tight turns and very tight wing-overs, pirouettes as distinctive, but this is a real heavy fighting machine. New generation of Fleet Air Arm helicopters packed with cutting-edge sensors and mission equipment, featuring the anti-surface guided weapon and the addition of the Martlets missile, the laser guided rocket system from Thales, which entered service in 2021, and the heavy Sea Venom guided and shipping missile produced by MBDA. Right up the front there, that little radar as well, packed with avionics and sensors to enable full situational awareness. Of course, unusual to think, but these guys taking off from the heaving and rolling decks out in the ocean and then having to go off, fight the aircraft itself, of course, in the combat area, and then return to a completely different place, wherever their ship may well have repositioned. Those operational roles, not necessarily involving the weapons, of course, but playing very, very key roles. Scotty himself was involved in a seizure of more than 145 million pounds worth of drugs, a record for UK warships in the region, in the maritime counter-narcotic activity. Alongside him, though, Viv joined the Navy in February 2013, has been operating the Wildcat since 2017. His deployments also involved the Middle East, maritime security operations, as well as providing force protection to the Queen Elizabeth carrier as the first flight to deploy with the Martlet missile. Both these guys now instructors, running operational conversion back at their home base in Yeovilton. Obviously a very versatile, highly maneuverable helicopter, able to perform all those roles that I've mentioned. But in addition, we'd also perhaps carry Royal Marine snipers and potentially a 50 caliber machine gun as well. Currently 10 Wildcat flights deployed around the world, performing all of these roles and much more. Coming into the hover now, you know what's coming up. It's their opportunity to say hello and goodbye to you. There is waving off. Come on, boys and girls, mums and dads, give them a massive wave. These guys giving up their weekends to come and entertain us, but also highlighting the modern Royal Navy, the Fleet Air Arm. And if you get the chance, I know they've got some People on the ground here as part of the military village. Do take your kids along to go and have a chat with them and talk about how they got to be there, how they found their inspiration, not just to join the military, but also to fly their aircraft as well. Pirouetting his way back up to 500 feet. Or executing another very impressive 90-degree nose down maneuver. There she goes, and it's dramatic, isn't it? From all sky to all sea in a split second. I think he's going to set up for one more final maneuver, a 270-degree wing over, and flash back down the display line before nipping back home for tea and tipping, as you do in the Royal Navy water, otherwise known as Swansea Airport. Oh, it's just magnificent. I hope you're all having a great time out there. Keep us up to date where you come from, what you're doing, where you're listening from. Check out AeroView TV if you get a moment as well, and you'll be able to see just what a fabulous day we're having here at the Wales National Airshow. That, ladies and gentlemen, is Scotty and Viv going off to fight another day in a superb edition featuring the heart and soul of today's Fleet Air Arm. And what a span of history that is, back from the mid-1930s all the way up to today's date. Extraordinary range of experience and heritage.
Yeah, mae'n mor braf gweld yr amrywiaeth heddiw yma. So great to see the variety on display here, of course, at the Wales Airshow. Ga'r sioe awyr Cymru, croeso chi gyd. A warm welcome to you all, to Caris, to Gareth Danks and the family here today, Lee Jones and family, getting in touch on X. Cofiwch, remember to use the hashtag Wales Airshow to get in touch with us on the socials. And what a variety we've seen already, from the Red Devils parachute display team starting us off right through to the Tutor, Vampire, the Starlings, and lots more, of course, including the Spitfire earlier. Lots of people, no doubt, looking forward to the Typhoon. Llwythwch chi'n edrych ymlaen at diwedd y prynhawn a gweld rhywbeth arbennig iawn. So don't forget, lots still to come this afternoon. So do get in touch. Hashtag Wales Airshow to get in touch with us and let us know what you're up to today. Don't forget, as we heard earlier, lots going on the ground as well. Llwyth o'r digwyddiadau ar y ddaear. So we've got the Veterans Village, Band of the Prince of Wales, and lots of those food stands and trailers. So don't just sit on the beach between those breaks that we get a little later on. Do go and check out the stands, the stalls. Chat to the military guys. Many of the displays that we've got here today are a direct entry point to maybe the armed forces. We've seen the Tutor earlier and the display. Maybe the kids would love to fly the Grob Tutor. Go and chat to the RAF cadets. It's a great way to get into the air experience, flying opportunities that are on offer as well.
Well, thanks, Jay. Coming up now is something quite different. Excuse me there for a second. And these two guys, again, really consummate pairs display. You don't quite know what it is, and perhaps not as dynamic as the extreme unlimited aerobatics of the Starlings that you saw at the start of the afternoon. But nonetheless, very graceful pairs formation work. These guys known as the Firebirds, flying their little RVs. And I say little, but they're actually very dynamic aircraft and quite superb. So what we're doing at the moment, we're just waiting for the the Wildcat down there over the Mumbles, just to be absolutely clear of the display area. This is reset. A huge amount of work goes into the planning, of course, not just event management in running the show itself, but also you can't see what is going on in terms of the safety management planning for the air show itself. You can see the safety line that we have designated out in the wild sea out there, pretty much on the edge of the extended beach line. And that is for your safety as well as obviously the pilots as well. But we have to ensure the airspace is clear before we bring other aircraft into it, and the timings and so on and so forth. Nice to see a few extra maritime boaters out there joining us as well, and perhaps they're also tuned in to AeroView. So coming up here the rest of the afternoon following this, we're about 2/3 of the way through now, and following this we'll see another very, very popular aircraft, which is the Sea King helicopter. Then a very delightful display we had yesterday from Paul Farmer in the Yak 50. A very unique and historic Hurricane yet to come. Our ever popular homegrown team, Raven, of course, quite the busiest formation team after the Red Arrows in Europe these days. And then finishing off with the incredible impact and sight and sound of the Royal Air Force's Flightline Typhoon. I hear the aircraft checking in now. You'll see their smoke come in. I'm expecting them from the right, but they may just surprise me and coming from the left. So all you little boys and girls out there can shout and wave and scream when you get sight of them as well. They're coming high and then dive down in for their first maneuver. So here we come now. Keep your eyes peeled. The smoke will come on, and we're going to welcome two Vans RV4s. And it's a series of sport aircraft, and really the most incredibly successful line of build-it-yourself kit planes in the planet. Well over 10,000 of these have been built in a variety of different ways, and in the hands of two really experienced and absolutely delightful pilots, Nigel Reed and John Dodd. And they're going to perform a whole series of very, very graceful pairs work. It's a delight and pleasure to watch, with John absolutely glued to Nigel's leading manoeuvres. And of course, as you learnt more and more about these formation displays in the past, you've learned about how the pilot in the front calls it and how the number two has to absolutely put in exactly the same control movements to ensure he stays glued to the track and direction of the lead pilot. Relatively lightweight aircraft, around about just around 500 kilograms, about the third of the weight of a VW Golf, but fitted with a 5.3 litre 160 horsepower engine. Pulling up now, G coming on into another of the classic barrel rolls. They turn gently, see how second pilot just replicating those inputs from the lead pilot. Normal cruising speed for this aircraft, around about 160 miles an hour, but they don't do a lot of normal, these two guys, because displaying them is just absolutely superb. They'll be flying these wonderful aircraft, anything between about 50 miles an hour and 200 miles an hour. Delightful aircraft, very much a tourer as well as a aerobatic aircraft. This aircraft, as well as the massive success of the home built, the sort of thing you can put together in your back garden, by the way, and reasonably modest and economic to run as well. Many different variants, and you can tailor this aircraft to suit what your ambitions are, just flying locally or touring across the Channel to France. Celebrating 45 years in production this year. These particular aircraft were imported from America, and they were shipped over from Baltimore many years ago in the hands of two previous owners, but these aircraft bought by Nigel and John Dodd to keep the element of what was the Firefly display, now displaying under a new name of the Firebirds. Configuration is very much a fighter pilot's idiom, with 2 seats in tandem configuration with dual controls in the rear seat as well. And able to operate from very short strips as well. Just 300 meters is all you need for this particular aircraft, but fully aerobatic, putting up to 6G or -3. But in this case, these aircraft also pretty heavily modified, not just with the smoke system, but also they have wingtip pyrotechnics for their evening displays, as well as LED light strips as well, which adds a really superb effect. They're not fitted with inverted fuel systems, and therefore they've got to maintain positive G to ensure the engine continues to run. Magnificent day for it, being able to use the full sky and the full repertoire of maneuvers. Just G positioning now, another big wing over to their right. Running back in now, good photo opportunity coming up.
Enjoy, thank you.
Putting up, pitching, G coming on. Aircraft braking now into their individual routines. Nigel, very much well known across the air display circuit. He was brought up with aviation, having been introduced to it by his father some many years ago. His father used to work with Flightline refueling, but also owned Tiger Moth as well. Nigel was dead keen to join. He was one of many youngsters who joined the air training corps. In his case, it was at Poole. Went on to the gliding course at Old Sarum, and became a staff cadet with #2 Air Experience Flight. Many others have enjoyed as well. Great opportunity for you youngsters to join the cadets here. I do make the most of it. Go and chat to the team that are up in the military village. Dead keen though, so enthusiastic. Nigel actually did 3 paper rounds a day to ensure he had enough fuel to pay for both the aircraft and the instructor. Managed to get into the Royal Air Force straight from school, underwent training on the Jet Foggers Mark III, and then the 5, and then went on to Valley to fly the Hawk before moving on to Hunters. He was the last student on the Hunter Tactical Weapons course at RAF Grob before then going on to fly the Jaguar, serving number 20 Squadron at Bruggen, and 54 Squadron at Coltshaw, where he then left. Like so many off the Air Force course, Nigel went on and flew with British Airways for many years. As does Doddy alongside him. Also, sadly we missed him yesterday while he was doing his regular sim ride. Simulator check, as airline pilots have to do. He's actually a Scotsman. Was keen on model flying before he went on to Dundee University. Started flying Cessna 152s at the Dundee Flying Club. So pitching up now into what we call a quarter clover. When they get up to the top of this, they would just put in a little twist. There you go, a quarter of a turn, and that just enables them to reposition. There you see the conversation going on, absolutely precise manoeuvring, synchronized with the voice of Nigel Reid. Doddy regularly involved with his other passion, which is flying older aircraft. He spent many years flying with Air Atlantique on the Rapide and the DC-3. Also flew a number of classic jets, including the JPs he first trained on and the Vampire and Venom. Had a spell with the Vickers Vimy before that went into the Brooklands Museum. And well known also flying the Warbirds with Spitfire at Duxford with the Aircraft Restoration Company. Went on to fly the Mustang Sea Fury in the Hurricane as well. He just lives and breathes being airborne. And almost at the end of their sequence now, the Firebirds just repositioning. They'll be flying along the display line from right to left. A good opportunity once again to show your thanks. Give them a wave. Amongst many pilots who spend much of their time over the other side of the country in East Anglia, with an awful lot of flying out of Duxford. Coming in, another good photo opportunity coming your way. Keep your eyes peeled. Let's drop in the cockpit. Pitching. You see how they just cross paths there. Yet again, our second heart of the afternoon. Give your partner a hug or wish somebody well. A really magnificent day for this sort of flying. Superb. And that is the completion of the Firebird. Really delightful display, very sublime, and these guys, in many ways, capable of much, much more than that, I can assure you. But it's just so graceful to see pairs formation flying. Really effective, very rewarding.
Yeah, prynhawn anhygoel yma yn y sioe awyr Cymru. An amazing afternoon here at the Wales Airshow over Swansea Bay. Great to have this on our doorstep, and as we heard earlier, glorious weather, of course, over the last couple of days, whether you've joined us yesterday or just today, or maybe you've come back for a second fix of today's amazing displays. Lots still to look forward to. The Typhoon coming up in just a bit. Ond ni am ddweud ddiolch heddi yma. Just a quick thanks then to the team at FRFDS. Ni'n wrth ein bodd. We're great to have them on board. Delighted to be at the Wales Airshow for a second consecutive year running. This year they've got a special offer as well, so do pop and see the guys over there at FRF for your chance to win a £100 Amazon voucher. That'll come in handy, maybe to buy some, I don't know, airshow memorabilia for the future. Lots of you enjoying the day, felly cysylltwch ar y cyfryngau cymdeithasol fer arfer. Do get in touch on the socials, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly Twitter. We're at Wales Airshow. And of course, we've been doing your shout-outs over the weekend. We heard earlier about the Aerovu TV team. They're here streaming this online. We've got people in Chile, in Patagonia, Cape Verde, watching the Airshow online. So get in touch and let us know where you are today. Hashtag Wales Airshow.
And while we're just waiting for the next acts and the reset of the airspace and everything else, just a word of thanks as we're coming towards the last third of this afternoon for our many sponsors and helpers. An awful lot of volunteers helping here as well this weekend, without whom we just wouldn't be able to mount this. But a phenomenal number of people have been supporting us in so many other ways as well, with Greatest Hits Radio, supporting the Red Arrows yesterday, Great Western Railway, our airshow travel partner, First Cymru, also travel partner alongside Transport for Wales as well, and Travel House have been sponsoring the flight deck marquee. FRF Toyota, and if you didn't pick up a wristband, then you missed a trick with them, but nonetheless, you hopefully will have seen their logos with that as well. The British Legion, of course, very heavily involved with us running the Armed Forces Day activity. Aerodyne, Lidl, Radnor Hills and Days Rental, all part of the many, many people who've been helping us put this together. But of course, the whole brunt of it on the hands of Swansea Council and their team been checking every minute of every day of this particular event. So if you keep your eyes peeled out now to the right-hand side, you'll see a seagull about to engage in combat with a Sea King helicopter, which is heading in to us very, very shortly. And it's something that many of us, or certainly my generation, would have seen along the beaches and shores of the United Kingdom when we were children, the bright, large yellow helicopters of the Royal Air Force's fleet of Sea Kings, which did such fantastic work in so many ways in saving so many lives. Making its way round now on the right-hand side. Join us very shortly. Just a reminder, when you're planning to leave later on, please make sure you take all your belongings with you. Of course, don't forget the children and the grandparents either. Leave only footprints on the sand if you would, please. So take your rubbish with you as well. Dispose of it sensibly. And keep the environment as clean and fresh as possible for us all to enjoy it throughout the rest of this summer. So at long last, having made its way around most of the western side of the bay, this aircraft in the hands today of Andrew Whitehouse. He's the owner and boss of historic helicopters at Chard. Please welcome the mighty Sea King. there's a sight that was so familiar to many of us those years ago. The search and rescue squadrons used to provide 24-hour cover around the UK and the Falkland Islands throughout the year, but of course that all now contracted out. And the next pilot heading our way after this actually flies for the current Coast Guard. About that later on. These helicopters entered Royal Air Force service in 1978 as the HAR-3. PA joined in 1996. Both marks used in the search and rescue role. And they operated in those days from 6 locations around the UK, each location supplying 2 aircraft. The aircraft and crews were required to be on station with a 15-minute readiness call during daylight hours and 45 minutes readiness during the hours of darkness. In search role, the Sea King was able to operate to very precise navigational standards, fitted with a multi-band homing system, satellite navigation systems, search radar, very comprehensive avionics suite, and also a large selection of radios. That was, of course, partly because of the different agencies that they would have had to interface with in the course of their search and rescue. Bear in mind that this was often in coastal regions, not just over the sea, but in the mountains very close to the ocean. To assist with rescues, the helicopter is fitted with a hydraulically operated main rescue hoist, an electrically operated emergency rescue hoist, and of course all of the connections required for powering medical equipment such as incubators. They would also have been fitted with video and infrared detection pods, very similar to those used by police helicopters, to help to search for casualties both in the sea and on the coastline. All the crews trained to operate using night vision goggles, usually with 4 crew on board this particular type of helicopter, 2 pilots, one of whom would be the captain, a radar operator, acts as the winch operator, and of course a winch man who would be trained to full paramedic standards, able to supply immediate first aid and recovery on the rescue site. And we hope to see most of the rescue and winching drills demonstrated here today. The conditions are good enough for that. This particular Westland 61 Sea King is a British license-built version of the American Sikorsky S-61 helicopter of the same name, but differed considerably from the American version with Rolls-Royce Gnome engines. So in military roles had British-made anti-submarine warfare systems and the computerized flight control system as well. Primarily designed for performing anti-submarine warfare missions. Another variant was also adapted by Westlands as a troop transport known as the Commander, operating in what we know as the jungly role. A very, very versatile machine indeed. Into the hover, I'm expecting to see a winchman being deployed any moment. you're a bit nearer with your binos or telephoto lenses, we'll no doubt be able to see the action going on in the cabin door. Interestingly enough, in the stable hopper, in which this one is well presented, also notes the massive conspicuity nature of a fully yellow aircraft, one of the best colours being seen. Overall in service across both the Royal Air Force and the Royal Navy, the E-King provided a massive range of services, as well as wartime roles in the Falklands War, the Gulf War, Balkans conflicts, Iraq and Afghanistan as well. The Sea King is probably best known in its capacity as a Royal Navy Search and Rescue. They operated in the red and grey livery, with the Royal Air Force Search and Rescue operating in the livery you see here today. Another main role with the Royal Navy was, of course, to meet their requirement for a ship-based airborne early warning platform, carrying what was known as the bag on the side of the airframe. Very large radar indeed. This particular aircraft was one that was painted a very dark sea grey for duty in the post-war Falkland period. You see the winchman. Interesting enough, the winch operator would have also had a tiny little joystick which gives him a little bit of range of movement. Not total control at all, because that still rests with the captain of the aircraft up the front. But just enabling very, very fine movements. It really required total crew cooperation as well to ensure safe recovery of the casualty. Fitted with both fixed-bladed rotor head and also a tail rotor as well. Rotor head providing really fantastic hovering, stable hovering capability. There have been two searchlights fitted at a sharp end as well. To enable the crew in the event that of course they did go down themselves, the fire front windscreen could be jettisoned to allow rapid and easy progress in the event of an incident. Making its way down to the far end now. Another little trick up their sleeve. Hopefully see in just a moment. Completing a series of turns down the flyline. They reposition, they'll enter the hopper once again over towards Port Talbot now. And drop another little surprise for us to enjoy before the blast. Meanwhile, this helicopter having returned to flight of one of several now with historic helicopters down at Charlie and Somerset. Recently featured as a bit of a film star in the Sunday evening drama program Vigil, and has also been involved in it was an Apple TV film, I think, Invasion, which that's about a year or so ago. So we have to thank very much the likes of Andrew Whitehouse and his team down there for helping preserve these very important, very historic machines so that we can use them years to come. So a bit of might use a little bit of obscure from here, but what I'm hoping to see now is the deployment of the Royal Air Force ensign, very appropriate in this period. We're celebrating our day, an incident with the 80th anniversary of D-Day as well, but the Royal Air Force is very present here in the military area as well as in the air. And here it comes, giving everybody a salute from historic helicopters to the Royal Air Force. That huge fuselage able to take a total of 17 passengers if necessary. With a full fuel load, it can fly for up to 6 hours, a maximum speed of around about 140 miles, giving it an operational radius of 270 nautical miles. That winch you see there, the cable able to extend out in excess of 200 feet and also equally capable of lifting up to 3 adults simultaneously. So there we go. Ensign has been brought safely back in, and that pretty much completes peaking demonstration. I think whether Andrew is going to give us one more fly-off, because I know he's going straight back to Chard in Somerset. Right about at our 10 o'clock position from here. And yes, here we go, boys and girls, mums and dads. You know what to do. Give the crew. Alongside him today is Mike Mallock Smith, and they've done a great job bringing us a bit of nostalgia back here to the Wales National Airshow with the fabulous yellow Sea King.
Ie, gobeithio chi mwynhau y prynhawn yma yn y Sioe Awyr Cymru. Hope you're enjoying the afternoon here at the Wales Airshow. Great to see the Sea King there. I know, I remember that appearing individual with Suran Jones being winched down in that TV drama just a few months ago on our screens. Felly beth am cysylltu? How about getting in touch? Let us know how you're enjoying the afternoon. Hashtag Wales Airshow. Kai getting in touch. Hello to Kai and Caitlin. Kai says he loves you very, very, very much. Quite specific. There's 3 in that message up on X. So hashtag Wales Airshow. Do get in touch and let us know where you're from. And of course, it doesn't end today. You can follow all the action on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly Twitter. Man y modd mynd ar y cyfryngau cymdeithasol I anfon lluniau ato ni, negeseuon. You can share today's pictures. I know we've got some keen photographers here today sharing some amazing, incredible pictures with us. Then do feel free to tag us in on those socials using the Wales Airshow hashtag. We do love to see your pictures. And as we heard earlier, a great event by Swansea Council, so they'll be happy to share those pictures if we can on social. Now, I know lots of you looking forward to the Typhoon, which isn't far away. You know, we're getting excited here as well in the commentary box with an amazing view. We're just so pleased to have some glorious weather this weekend as well. We were quite worried about today, thinking it was going to be a wet afternoon, but we've had 2 glorious days of sunshine.
Well, keep your eyes peeled now, because running in something completely different, and it's a fabulous aircraft in the hands of a local operator as well. I mentioned somebody who flew for the Coast Guard. His name's Paul Farmer, and this is a Russian aircraft known as the Yak-50. So here he comes now from your left-hand side, pulling on the Gs, pulling up this wonderful, wonderful aircraft built by the Yakovlev Design Bureau. It first flew in 1973, designed specifically to win aerobatic competitions around the world, and fitted with a brilliant Vedeniev M14P 450 horsepower radial engine, capable of pulling 9G in a climb rate of around 5,000 feet a minute. Paul will put it through some very, very graceful maneuvers, high wingovers, loops, log barrel roll, and just very gracefully showing what a lovely aircraft this is. Just keeps on pulling you around the sky. It's absolutely terrific. You just keep the power on. It's like what Clarkson describes as having lots of torques. These aircraft were the workhorse of the aerobatic team of the Soviet Union from 1975. They took first place in both the men and women's competitions at the 1976 World Aerobatic Championships in Kyiv in Ukraine. Many of the aircraft built in Romania, but also heavily flown in Ukraine as well. The aircraft coming out of the well-known stable of the Yakovlev aerobatic display team, still sporting those colors. World leaders in formation flying, of course. Based at Henstridge Airfield. In the hands, run brilliantly well by the very popular Jez Hopkinson. Paul managed to get himself a slot with the team a couple of years ago before, very sadly, Jez decided to hang up the team's hat, move on to other business. I happen to know just how much Paul really enjoys flying this machine, as I would myself, actually. Now, he's the guy, got lots of rotary experience in the past. He's currently flying the search and rescue as a commander on the Augusta Westland 189 helicopter for HM Coast Guard, based at St. Athan. Previously flew the Mark II, 3 and 4 Chinook for the Royal Air Force. Completed 7 tours of Afghanistan. Some of the most challenging and rewarding operational flying anybody could ever wish. And very much involved in the large-scale formation, insertion and extractions to singleton medical emergency response teams known as the MERT teams. Outstanding job they did as well. Qualified as an instructor back in 2010. Became an A2 QHI training officer on the Chinook operational conversion flight. He was a well-known and very capable display pilot, playing the Chinook Mark II during the 2012 and 2013 seasons, before then going on to teaching and mentoring the following display pilots after him. He always had a bit of a passion, though, for flying proper airplanes, as we refer to these. Wonderful aerobatic, historic tailwheel aircraft. Yeah, cut his teeth on Cubs, Osters, Dearman, and now working his way up to the more powerful Yak 50. I love the sweeping, the wide-paced turns and rolls and wing-overs that Paul puts in with this aircraft. The smoke really delineating shapes well. He was actually number 2 in the Yak and Clubs formation in 2022. Now, second season as a solo act, sadly, following the retirement of that team in the aerobatic formation business. He's also become a display authority authorizer, evaluator, working for the CAA to ensure that other pilots are prepared for the rigors, safe handling of air display flying. Got a very distinctive sound, hasn't it, this Vedeniev? It's a really terrific engine. A big 9-cylinder radial, very similar to the in many ways, the Pratt & Whitneys, also designed in the late 30s and 40s. Aerobatically, it can pull up to 7 or minus 5G. Very, very strong airframe indeed. But requiring just around about 300 meters of runway, so really, really capable. And Paul there coming to the end of his sequence, just calling complete, and a very accomplished performance indeed. And we hope we'll see lots more of Paul as he goes through his flying career. So we're just reconfirming the next aircraft as one departs and one comes in to ensure that they are fully deconflicted. And again, another bit of a treat coming our way now for the next few minutes. And this is all going far, far too fast for my liking. It's been such a delightful afternoon here. Great shame to coming to the closing half hour of this program.
Wel, wrth gwrs, mae'r sioe Awyr Cymru yn un o'r uchafbwyntiau raglen digwyddiadau joio bai Abertawe sy'n cynnwys yn haf o chwaraeon gyda'r wyl, para chwaraeon a gyfres para triathlon. So lots going on here, of course, and the Wales Airshow is just one of those highlights of Swansea Council's Enjoy Swansea Bay programme of events that includes Summer of Sport with the Para Sports Festival and Ironman, which I'm sure you're well aware of, not to mention the Singleton Park Swansea Bay 10K as well, and lots more. So if you want to know more about what's happening this summer, yeah, am fwy o bodaeth, ewch I joio by abertawe.com. Head on over to enjoyswansea.bay.com. But as we're hearing, we are coming up to the last few aircraft, so still time to get in touch with us on the socials. Hashtag Wales Airshow to let us know how far you've travelled from today and what you've enjoyed most about the weekend.
Well, thank you, Jay. It's very sad. It's just beautiful out there now, isn't it? Well, we're just ensuring that all is set because now we've got another special treat. An aircraft we were hoping to see yesterday, but because of the weather across the other side of the country, we couldn't get here in time. But now absolutely epically placed. We were treated with the pleasure of the Rolls-Royce Mark 19 Spitfire. Always a joy. But that was at one end of the war. Right at the start, when the chips were down and life was really, really tough indeed. Of course, there were only squadrons of Hurricanes. The Spitfire was still very, very new indeed, and the Hurricanes fielded around about 2-1 against the Spitfires. And the Hurricanes that we're going to commemorate right here now, immortalised by this fabulous restored and refurbished Mark I, a very rare treat indeed, with one of the earliest Merlin engines that would have been flying during the Battle of Britain. And here it is, the Hawker Hurricane, one of the classic fighters of all time, designed and built for war. It was at the forefront of Britain's defence in 1940 and played a major part in achieving the victory in 1945. Sidney Cam was the man who commenced work on this design of the Hurricane back in 1934. He was an extraordinary man. He went on to work on the Typhoon, the Tempest, the Hunter and the Harrier. Prototype Hurricane made its maiden flight in November 1935 with deliveries to Royal Air Force 111 Squadron at Northolt in Christmas 1937. The Hurricane was the first British monoplane 8-gun fighter, the first Royal Air Force aircraft to exceed 300 miles an hour, and in level flight, it was the first production fighter with a retractable main undercarriage. In the hands today of the delightful, amusing and very talented Trevor Dugan, himself an Irishman, Ex-backseater, navigator, weapons operator on the Tornado fleet, I should say. But getting his hands now into a whole range of different aircraft, having worked his way up through the Warbird Harvard training school, then qualifying on the Spitfire. Now in this magnificent and very historic Hurricane we have here today. This aircraft, the 7497 Mark I, manufactured in August 1940 by Hawker Aircraft Limited at Kingston. Flown operationally at the very height of the Battle of Britain from the famous fighter station Kenley in East London. The aircraft was lost during an operational patrol on 28th of September over Sutton in Kent. Following an in-depth restoration completed by Hawker Restorations, this aircraft returned to the skies as recently as August 2018. New home is now the Imperial War Museum, Duxford, where it sits in the Battle of Britain hangar beside the Spitfire Mark I. It's very different from the Spitfire, however. It's noisier, it's draggier, and it's a rugged workhorse. While flying this aircraft, it will be vibrating inside with the wooden and fabric panels responsible for a lot of the noise. Air will be leaking through the cockpit at high speed, and the controls will become stiff. During the Battle of Britain, Royal Air Force Fighter Command fielded more Hurricanes than Spitfires, and Hurricanes achieved a similarly greater proportion of combat kills during the battle. A remarkable total of 14,500 Hurricanes were built, and the aircraft served operationally on every day throughout hostilities in every operational theatre and in many roles. At the end of World War II in 1945, Hurricanes were still in the front line, helping to ensure final victory in the Far East. Notable in this aircraft, however, is the Merlin 3 engine. Talking about a very early Merlin with a float-type carburettor. What is people often refer to when they talk about the Spitfire engines cutting out under -G. Doesn't happen to the later engines, but if Trevor pushes the stick forward during this display, then the engine will simply stop. Much lower power than the later Spitfires. During the Battle of Britain, the Merlin 3 was the best we had, with the Hurricane at the numbers I've described, which made the difference. Spitfire may have taken the glory at the end of the day, technically more advanced, but you have to fight with what you had available at the time, and the Hurricane became the hero of the Battle of Britain.
Yeah. What can I get?
This particular aircraft was the 4th Hawker production block by Hawker Aircraft Limited. Initially delivered to 20MU, the maintenance unit based at RAF Aston Down, where interestingly enough, Trevor flew past there yesterday, 84 years after the aircraft was first based there. An extraordinary coincidence. Following the installation of essential equipment, the aircraft was issued to 501 County of Gloucester Squadron at Kenley on the 19th of September 1940, primarily to make up the losses which had been inflicted by the squadron earlier in that summer. Of course, 501 very much bore the brunt of the early days, having been involved with the early expeditionary force in France, and giving you a lovely top-side pass now. Trevor repositioning the aircraft a little bit closer for you to appreciate the sight and sound of this marvellous machine. It was used operationally for the first time by Sergeant Saywood in the afternoon of the 24th of September. Service career was, however, very short-lived, as it was shot down by a BF 109 over Kent on the 28th of September. Only 6 further operational sorties having been carried out. Came to Earth in Saturn. Survived the incident. Here, the pilot survived taking to his parachute. But again, now after a lengthy restoration, we see this back in the air again. Been absolutely wonderful, hasn't it, just to sit back and enjoy the magnificent sights, the history that goes with this particular aircraft, it being one of the few, albeit this aircraft didn't stay airborne for very long, it nonetheless was there with 501 in the thick of the fight. And there, a little wing waggle from Trevor, having played absolutely superbly for us. A really, really delightful display indeed. It's so lovely that we had the weather today to see this very rare, very important aircraft. A real pleasure.
Yeah, mae 'di bod yn sioe arbennig ar draws y penwythnos. It's been an incredible weekend for the air show here at Swansea Bay. So a big thanks to each and every one of you for joining us over the last couple of days. Lots on display yesterday, of course. We had the Red Arrows here mixed in with today's Red Devils starting us off during the afternoon. But if you are just joining us, we are counting down, of course, to the Typhoon very soon. But it doesn't end after the air display. Mae llwyth yn digwydd yma ar y ddaear hefyd. Plenty going on here on the ground. We've just had the Rock Choir on stage. They're going to be taking a break, but the band of the Prince of Wales going to be on stage soon, followed by Melon Theatre and a flash mob. And there's entertainment going on right through till about 6:45 tonight on the stage down there near the Patty Pavilion. Felly ewch draw, pop on over. The entertainment continues. Don't dash off once the air display finishes. Make the most of today's weather and the weekend, and do stick around and enjoy some of those ground displays, the stands, the stalls, plenty of entertainment, and of course information. As we were hearing earlier, your chance as well to find out more about some of the aircraft. We've got stands there from the Red Arrows, the Tutor display, of course, and find out more about how potentially the young boys and girls here today could be flying in the skies in the future. You could be joining the Grob Tutor displays, perhaps, of the coming years. They'd love to see you over there at the RAF Cadets and our Armed Forces Village. So, yeah, do pop on over. Ewch draw.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Jay. Well, coming up now, a special treat. We've had a couple of pairs formation teams. Earlier on, we've had a 4-ship Gazelle team, which was quite superb. But now we've got our own Very much local lads-based team from here in Swansea. A 6-ship of RVs, all absolutely outstanding. You've heard me chat about them before. One of the most successful kit-built aircraft in the world. And they're displaying here as Team Raven. Keep your eyes open up to the right-hand side where I'm expecting to see them. You'll see the smoke come on very shortly. And this is quite now the go-to team. They are easily the busiest civilian display team, I think, in Europe. They've travelled backwards and forwards across the channel as far down as Spain over the last few months. They were in France, I think, just a week ago, displaying there. And they are busy, busy guys and have done had the most successful career in this, led by Sid Shirley. Former RAF fast jet pilots with well over 5,500 hours now. Done multiple tours on the Tornado F3. We'll take our hats off to him, but high in the sky on the right-hand side now. The smoke has just come on. Please give him a warm welcome here in Swansea Bay. These guys very well known around here as well, doing lots of practicing. Pulling up now for their Delta Loop, Team Raven. And always a pleasure and a delight to welcome these guys, whatever the location, but here particularly special for them indeed. A really, really good bunch of guys. They deliver time and time again around the display circuits, and we hope they will continue for some time to come. Sid put in an enormous amount of time and effort to build this up, in between his main job, of course, which is commanding the University of Wales Air Squadron at St. Athan, flying the Grob Tutor. You'll hear his voice in a few moments, bringing the 6-ship now back in from the 45 degree for the underside pass. Flying alongside Sid in the number 2 position is Pete Wells, another extremely well-known name in the air display circuit. Numbers 4 and 5 braking. Again, familiar names in those 2 aircraft with Gerald Williams, being a well-known rugby player, and alongside him Russ Eatwell, a man from the Royal Navy background with the Fleet Air Arm, well over 15,000 hours, and great characters to have in the sky with us. Keep your eyes here now, coming in from the right, the main formation, 1, 2, 3, and 6. In box formation for a barrel roll. And there is the sound of Sid, just leading the team out to the left-hand side, as 4 and 5 re-enter from straight in front of us, stretching out into another barrel roll, and then water clean. Delightful aircraft these to display, and just a magnificent skyline. Putting up, G coming on, of course, as they stretch there, put in that little twist at the top to make the quarter of that clover, we refer to it. But keep your eyes out on the left-hand side now as the main team with 1, 2, 3, and 6 come in for the cycling. In the third seat is Barry Gwinnett, Another experienced general aviation pilot, had a PPL for almost 40 years or so now, got several thousand hours, and having displayed the Yak 52 previously, his 10th season with Team Raven. Retired from the building services industry, living here in Swansea. Very popular man on the circuit indeed. Having brought the team back in now into Delta, did gracefully leading the team. Standing by now for the vertical split.
Collision up now.
By. And I think you'll agree, an absolutely delightful manoeuvre with 2 splits there, 4 and 5 breaking out into their Cuban manoeuvres on either side. Rolling out, they're now positioning for the opposition pass. They roll out, going out to depth, out towards sea. Keep your eyes high now on the left-hand side. You'll see Sid bringing the rest of the nation back into play. Coming in on what we call the 45, that's sort of halfway between straight out to sea and the left-hand side. They'll be putting in a little twist. Very, very important now for the other pilots, working hard on the outside of that formation to replicate all the control movements of the leader. Doing that brilliantly well. 4 and 5 now coming in again from your right-hand side to pull up into what we call the battle loop. Coming on as they get to the top here, they'll be looking back over their shoulders, checking their wings are level with the horizon, and then they're building up the speed again, giving them the energy to go back out to the left-hand side for the next manoeuvre. Keep your eyes out to sea now as the main formation 1, 2, 3, and 6 coming to enter for what we call the cross break. Again, very calmly, very professionally leading the team there into that lovely break, beautiful photographic opportunity. Watch out now for 4 and 5. Gerald and Russ coming in now. The tail chase. This will be a double loop. Very neat indeed. Need to get exactly the right G as well to ensure that they keep the manoeuvre, right shape and size. Pulling out, conditioning to do it all over again. As they depart out on the right, look again, once again to the middle. It brings the Vic formation, 3 aircraft in for the Vic barrel. And there you again to see those 2 outside men working very hard to absolutely put the right cadence, the right control inputs in to replicate every maneuver of the leader. At the end of this, here they go now into the echelon fallaways. As they do that, keep a lookout now for 4 and 5 rushing in front of you. They'll be putting up, then splitting at the top to create the third heart of the afternoon. Being dedicated to all our wonderful staff here at Swansea Council who have been doing such a great job bringing you the Wales Airshow and a very successful Armed Forces Day yesterday as well. Number 6, slicing through with the arrow. A couple of really nice manoeuvres coming up for you now. This one of the most elegant and proficient civilian formation teams we have. So many others have sadly backed up and stopped display flying. Coming in now for the crocodile loops. Again, all will be replicating the amount of G, the angle, the heights, all checking in over the top. Now here's a tricky little manoeuvre coming up because as Sid leaves the 3 ship out to the left-hand side, the other guys have got to tuck in echelon. And they've got to do that in time by the end of this left-hand turn for their not quite final manoeuvre, but certainly I think one of the most delightful manoeuvres of the entire formation demonstration. So you see now there's a lot going on in this particular aspect. 2 tucking in from low level, final pilot diving in from above, using that height to just keep his speed up so he can tuck in and throttle back as soon as he slots in alongside in echelon. All 6 aircraft required to be in position and in line for the next manoeuvre called the Twizzles. This is another great photographic shot for you. Just made it in the nick of time. And here it is, walling away, absolutely delightful. A wonderful sight. Superb little aircraft these, good for touring as well, room for a bit of luggage. And very economic to fly. Absolutely ideal for whatever you want to do, just part-time private flying, or this demonstration flying you see here today. Absolutely superb. Positioning now, they'll be rejoining in their classic delta formation. Coming back, putting in a bit of a quarter clover turn, so to reposition the whole team to come back in for their final maneuver. All the activity takes place on that final cadence of the final words, putting on the G, here, putting in that quarter turn. Stand by now for the final manoeuvre from Team Raven. That's, ladies and gentlemen, is Team Raven. They sadly won't be giving you a flyby, so we can't wave them off, but maybe you'll see a few of them around town later on, as majority of the aircraft and pilots are based very locally with us. Absolutely delightful, very consummate display indeed, and they just, as I say, keep on delivering at high performance, high grade activity. Well, what a shame. Not over till it's over, but we're nearly complete after 2 fabulous days.
Ie, dyn ni bron wedi benni. Mae'n mor braf gael eich cwmni almost at an end. It's great to have you down here over the Swansea Bay area for this amazing show, the Wales Airshow 2024, Sioe Awyr Cymru 2024 wrth gwrs. Hello to Carol, Amy and Megan on the beach there who've enjoyed this afternoon. So whether you've been here for the last couple of days or just today, we are drawing to a close with the Typhoon very soon. Ond hoffwn ni ddiolch i'r noddwyr a'r cefnogwyr Sioe Awyr Cymru. A big thanks to our sponsors and of course Those supporters, including FRFDS Swansea, the Aerodrome, Lidl, Radnor Hills and Days Rental, to name just a few. Couldn't do an event like this, of course, the Swansea Council team, without the support of our partner organisations and supporters, which is great to have you with us. Now, as we've been saying, do share your pictures with us, your messages from across the weekend. Use the hashtag Wales Airshow. That's what we've been shouting out throughout the weekend, and it's a great place to look back at some of the highlights of the last couple of days. Myself and George were sat here yesterday when the Red Arrows ended the day, and we're now not too far away from the same happening again today with that incredible Typhoon.
Well, you know what's coming. It's a lot of noise, it's fast, it's furious, it's hugely dynamic. Really, really impressive way to end what has been the most fantastic couple of days in perfect weather. About to see the sharp end of the Royal Air Force's operational inventory. Outrageously successful aircraft in its own right, fitted with the ultimate in weaponry as well, and those 13 hard points underneath the wing. You'll get to see those close up, all to house the all-important ASRAM, AMRAM, Storm Shadow, Brimstone, Paveway, 4 laser guided 500-pound GPS bombs, and of course a 27mm Mauser cannon as well. All powered by 2 EJ200 Eurojet engines producing 20,000 pounds of thrust each. You'll be looking down the tailpipe of 40,000 pounds of power lighting up in front of your skies. Flown today by Flight Lieutenant David Turnbull, known as Turbo to his chums. He'll be coming in at around 600 knots, and that's mainly because we have a speed limit around the United Kingdom of 600 miles an hour, just to stop everybody going supersonic like they did in the old days and cracking a few windows and a few eardrums at the same time. So no more of that, but it's equally impressive. Keep your eyes out. I think he came in from the left-hand side yesterday, so let's favour that. You'll see him before you hear him. I hear him calling visual with us. It's fantastic news. We're right bang on time. Breaks off to 35,000 feet to Mach 1.5 in just 2.5 minutes. An extraordinary performance indeed for this machine. Able to withstand G-forces up to +9 and -3 with a maximum altitude up in the 60,000 feet environment, protected by an extraordinary Praetorian DAS defensive aid subsystem as well. A world-class multi-role combat aircraft. Running in now from your left-hand side, please welcome Turbo in the Typhoon. And on such a day, you'll see the full display from David Turnbull here today. A magnificent opportunity to really show off the amazing agility of this aircraft. Pulling his first set of 9G just to get the whole display started there at the end of that run-in. And then going into the double corkscrew off the tail end of a barrel roll. That's just the start, the first minute, and just so much more yet to come. I was talking about the difference between Generation 1 and the current generation of fighter aircraft, and you can see the difference. This It's so 10 times more capable in so many different ways to that little Vampire you saw about an hour or so ago. But being able to do it in such a small block of airspace is quite remarkable. All helped by a few onboard computerized systems as well. Those little canards flicking away at the front end. You'll see them darting about at slower speed later on. Helped out by so much onboard systems, of course, head-ups, helmet-mounted displays, and a little lady on board as well, sometimes nicknamed Barking Betty, just to ensure that he keeps it in safe territory. Luckily, the pilot of this standard, of course, wearing the latest in G suppression equipment as well. That is enabling him to withstand these high G maneuvers that are going on in front of you. Pretty much everything from his feet up to his chest is an array of equipment helping him to breathe and relax properly. He's not hearing very much of this jet blast, of course. He's sitting in a very comfortable cockpit up the sharp ends where he is able to fight the fight. And I say that because, of course, you've got to remember that all these guys, instructors as they are, busy people as they are, they still have to do QRA, a quick reaction alert, which is being available 24 hours a day to protect the coastline and the territory of the United Kingdom. Going through a lovely slow roll here. And it's a big beast, big heavy aircraft, this. Hanging in his straps momentarily. Putting in another barrel roll there, very, very graceful indeed. Recapturing the speed now with a stick way back. He's only doing about 110 knots, an extraordinary feature of an aircraft that can fly at such supersonic speeds. Transferring right back from high energy and high performance to be hardly moving at all. Get close up there with your binos or the cameras, you'll be able to see those canards at the front end working away. But he can't, even if he were to try and force it, the computerized system would help maintain this in safe, stable flight. You just put a bit more power on in just a minute or so, take it up into a low energy, slow speed loop. Or not. Here he goes right now. Pulling it back out now. We're putting just a neat little 450-degree roll before bending the aircraft back round again at around 9G. To give you a negative topside pass. Not easy doing that at all. Of course, as you push away from yourself, the blood going entirely the wrong direction towards your head. Very, very hard to control. And then, of course, increasing that by pushing up to that negative G maneuver. Coming out of the half Cuban. Bringing to now what we call a max rate turn. That's turning the aircraft as fast through the compass as you can. And just what a wonderful finale this is going to be, using all that energy and power there, putting in a couple of extra rolls. One last big 9G turn here. Cracking rounds the circuit. Now, on a day like this, there'd be nothing better or more pleasing to put a smile on a Typhoon pilot's face than being given enough altitude to come straight at you, pull up into another high G, climb, and go all the way to heaven and back. Ladies and gentlemen, the Typhoon display from Flight Lieutenant David Turnbull. Well, that's the way to end an air show, isn't it? And that's the way to end a flying display as well. Absolutely outstanding sequence there from the cream of the cream, the guys right at the sharp end on the fast jet squadrons, doing their bit on a daily basis to protect the United Kingdom's interests, not just, of course, here, but available every day in other parts of the world as well. Jay, been great working with you. I hope you enjoyed that 2 days of magnificent flying.
Very much, George. It's been great to be with you, and a great sort of variety. Llwyth o amrywiaeth, so much to see, of course, from the Spitfire to the Sea King and the Hurricane and Typhoon. George, I've got to ask, what's been your standout moment? What have you enjoyed the most?
Oh, God, that is so hard. I've got to say that last 5 minutes was fantastic.
Incredible.
But, you know, the contrast is great. I can't help but say that having a couple of warbirds today made all the difference. Having the Spitfire and the Hurricane here, that just added a real poignancy. And, of course, that extra 85 years of history of the Royal Air Force as well. Absolutely superb. But, yeah, yesterday, I mean, I've seen the red arrows. I don't know how many, you know, decades and thousands of hours I've watched. But yesterday's display was first class, and you don't get to see a full display very often. I'm absolutely delighted for Swansea, delighted for everybody that was here and the Armed Forces. It's been a magnificent day for Wales, and, you know, it's been a real privilege to be here.
A superbly organised event, so thanks to all the team. Diolch i'r tîm I gyd sydd wedi mwynhau rhoi rhyw fath o digwyddiad fel hyn arno. Great to see the team putting an event like this on, of course, here over Swansea Bay, a sioe awyr Cymru 2024. The Wales Airshow 2024 doesn't end now, of course, even though the air displays has finished. There's lots more going on the ground. Llwyth yn ddigwydd ar y ddeiar ar draws y prynhawn hefyd. Of course, we've got over 80 trade stands, dros 80 o stondinau yn cynnig bwyd a popeth arall hefyd. So do go and check out the stand, the stalls. There's choirs and music. We've got the band, the Prince of Wales, on at the moment. They're just starting over there, I think, near the Patty Pavilion. We've got Melyn Theatre and a flash mob, Bel Canto Village, or Vintage Trio. So lots to enjoy across the afternoon. Make the most of the good weather. And as we've been hearing, a big special thanks to a few people. Greatest Hits Radio, GWR First Cymru, Trafnidiaeth Cymru hefyd, sef partner teithio, the travel partner for the air show, Travel House, FRF Toyota, a Llen Brynedig Frenhinol, that's the Royal British Legion, FRF DS Abertawe, the Aerodyne, Lidl, Radnor Hills, and of course a big thanks to all the team at Swansea Council for organising such a great event. The team upstairs who've been coordinating all these in and out of activity with the aircraft, and George, a big thanks to you today for all your expertise.
I know, it's been a real pleasure, and again I'd like to pass on my thanks to all those wonderful people that have helped put this together. It takes literally months and months of planning to get this far, to do an air show of this standards, and I take my hat off to all of them. But as you're rushing away, please, please, please take all your belongings with you. Make sure you've got all the children. Take all your rubbish with you and dispose of it sensibly, please. And on your way out, please follow the instructions of all the stewards and the friendly policemen around the bazaar, all designed to get you home early. But why not just stick around for another couple of hours this beautiful evening? Enjoy the hospitality that Swansea Bay has to offer. And but from myself and Jay, we just wish you all a very safe journey home. Have a wonderful evening. And with any luck, you'll get us both back next year.
Ie, nos with a diolch i chi gyd am ddod.
Good night.